Deep beneath the Earth's surface, hidden from the eyes of time, lies a mystery that defies everything we think we know about ancient civilizations. A prehistoric stone structure so perfectly crafted it suggests an intelligence far beyond anything we associate with its age. How could a culture with no access to modern tools or technologies have constructed something so intricate, so precise that even today it challenges our engineering prowess? Was there a forgotten knowledge, a lost mastery of design that has since vanished? Join us as we uncover the secrets of a forgotten world and perhaps question everything we've believed. In the heart of southern Israel, nestled within the rugged and stark landscape of the Timna Valley, lies a set of ancient temples, silent witnesses to a forgotten past. The valley, a vast desert expanse of red sandstone and winding canyons, feels timeless. The air is dry, the sun unforgiving, and yet in the midst of this seemingly barren place, something extraordinary stands. The remnants of temples and shrines that have weathered millennia. The Timna Valley is no stranger to history. It has long been known for its ancient copper mines, which date back over 5,000 years. These mines, once at the heart of a bustling industrial hub, are scattered across the valley floor, their shafts still visible as ghostly reminders of a civilization long past. But the temples, hidden deep within the valley's folds, offer a more enigmatic clue. What were they used for, and who built them? The most prominent of these temples is often called the high place of the temple. It sits atop a hill overlooking the vast expanse of the valley below, commanding a view that hints at its importance in the landscape. The structure itself is remarkably well preserved for its age. Its stones, weathered by centuries of desert winds, stand in stark contrast to the surrounding arid land. The design is simplistic yet sophisticated, consisting of an altar-like structure and surrounding walls that seem to have been carefully constructed. Some researchers believe it was dedicated to the Egyptian goddess Hathor, while others suggest a link to the ancient Semitic gods worshipped by the region's early inhabitants. Yet, despite the evident cultural influence, there are no definitive records or inscriptions that explain the temple's purpose. No grand stone tablets declaring its builders or its purpose. No scrolls or ancient texts to guide our understanding. It's as if it was deliberately left to the sands of time, hiding in plain sight. It is tempting to place these temples within the framework of the Egyptian influence in the region, as the valley was once part of the ancient Egyptian Empire's southernmost territories. The striking similarities between Timna's temple and Egyptian structures have long fueled speculation. Some archaeologists point to the valley's connection to Egyptian mining expeditions and the goddess Hathor, the patron deity of miners, as a possible reason for the construction of these sacred sites. Hathor's symbols like the cow horns and sun discs have been found within the valley, strengthening this theory. However, other elements of the temples don't neatly fit into this narrative. For instance, some features of the structures, such as their unique positioning within the valley and the alignment of certain walls, seem to suggest a deeper understanding of astronomy, one that goes beyond what would be expected from a simple mining outpost. Was there a more profound purpose to these temples? Could they have served as places of spiritual pilgrimage or even ancient observatories used by early civilizations to chart the stars or mark celestial events? There are, of course, more speculative theories. Some researchers suggest that the temples may not be as Egyptian as they appear, and instead could be linked to a much earlier civilization, one that predated even the Egyptians themselves. Could the people who built the Timna temples have been part of an ancient unknown society, whose knowledge of architecture, astronomy, and metallurgy was far more advanced than we realize? While mainstream archaeology points to Egyptian influence, the lack of definitive evidence leaves room for other less conventional ideas. Some even speculate that the temples could have been built by mysterious pre-biblical peoples, Perhaps even ancient Israelites or other groups lost to history. Could they have been part of a ritual or religious system that was eventually wiped out, leaving only fragmented memories? The deeper we dig into the story of the Timna Valley temples, the more questions arise. Each stone, each carving, each alignment offers a clue, but the full story remains just out of reach. Is the Timna Valley merely a relic of Egyptian influence? Or does it guard a far older secret, one that still lies buried beneath the shifting sands? Perhaps it's a story that is not meant to be fully understood, one that asks us to ponder the mysteries of the ancient world, and to question how much of the past is truly lost to time. What remains clear is that the Timna Valley, with its ancient temples and hidden shrines, continues to challenge our understanding of the past. It invites us to look deeper, not just at the stones and structures, but at the questions they pose about the people who built them and what exactly they were trying to tell us as we continue our journey through the mysteries of ancient structures. We now find ourselves in the heart of the Balkans, in a remote corner of Bulgaria, where the remnants of a once great civilization rise dramatically from the rocky terrain. The archaeological complex of Perperakon sits atop a rocky hill overlooking the Tyrian plains, a landscape as rugged and wild as the mystery it holds. Its imposing stone walls, weathered by centuries of harsh winds and the unforgiving passage of time, speak of a forgotten past that still holds countless secrets. Perperakon, often referred to as the Balkan Stonehenge, is an archaeological site that has captivated the imaginations of historians and archaeologists for decades. The site consists of a vast complex of terraces, altars, temples, and fortifications carved directly into the rock. At first glance, it appears to be a blend of natural and human-made structures, an intricate puzzle that seems almost too perfect to be the work of a single civilization. Some of the stones are clearly shaped with a level of precision that would challenge even modern builders, yet the methods by which they were crafted remain a mystery. The site's scale alone raises questions. Was this just a religious center or something far more significant? The history of Perperakon is often linked to the ancient Thracians, a people whose influence once stretched across the Balkans, but whose civilization remains largely elusive despite their profound impact on the region. For years, it was believed that Perperakon was a sacred site, perhaps dedicated to the god Dionysus, whose cult was widespread in Thrace. Some scholars have suggested that the central temple at Perperakon may have been used for rituals of great importance. Rituals that could have involved everything from sacrifices to astronomical observations, or even the veneration of celestial bodies. The evidence of Perperakon's importance as a religious center is compelling. Large, flat stone surfaces, some of them decorated with intricate carvings, seem to align with the movement of the sun, casting shadows in precise patterns. The most striking feature is the so-called sacred altar, a massive slab of rock that seems to have been used in some kind of ceremonial function. Its position atop the hill makes it a focal point of the entire complex, and it is often described as a place where the heavens and the earth met, where ritualistic acts connected humans with the divine. Yet despite the wealth of information that has been uncovered at Perperakon, much remains shrouded in uncertainty. The absence of written records complicates our understanding. Unlike other ancient civilizations, the Tyrians left behind little in the way of written language. Their stories are lost to time, known only through the works of Greek and Roman historians, who often only mention them in passing. The lack of inscriptions or definitive records at Perperakon leaves us with more questions than answers. Who were the people who built this remarkable complex? What exactly was its purpose? As with many ancient sites, there are theories that venture beyond the conventional. Some researchers suggest that Perperakon may have been more than just a religious center. It could have served as a political hub, a seat of power where rulers and priests worked in tandem. evidence of a royal residence has been found at the site, leading some to believe that Perperakon was the home of an ancient Tyrian king, or perhaps even the site of an early Tyrian monarchy. But what kind of ruler would have needed such an elaborate and inaccessible location? Was it a place of political power, or was it primarily a place of spiritual significance? Other more speculative theories have even suggested that Perperakon may have had a connection to earlier civilizations, possibly ones that predated the Tyrians. Some have pointed to the advanced construction techniques used to create the site, suggesting that it might have been influenced by even older, now lost cultures with knowledge of architecture and astronomy far beyond what was known in the Thracian era. Could the people of Perperakon have been carrying forward a knowledge inherited from a long-lost civilization? The precise alignment of certain parts of the complex with celestial events, such as solstices and equinoxes, hints at a sophisticated understanding of the heavens, one that may have been passed down from an unknown source. Adding to the mystery are the numerous artifacts that have been discovered at the site. Pottery shards, tools, and weapons offer glimpses into the daily life of the people who once inhabited Perperakon. Yet, none of these artifacts seem to provide a clear answer to the fundamental question: who were these people? And what was their true purpose in building such an extraordinary complex? Despite years of excavation and research, Perperakon remains one of the most enigmatic archaeological sites in Europe. With each new discovery, the mysteries grow deeper and the questions more profound. What if Perperakon was not just a center of worship, but also a repository of ancient knowledge, hidden from history for reasons we may never fully understand? Could it be that the secrets of Perperakon, buried deep within its rocky walls, are waiting to be revealed? As the winds of time continue to erode the stone, one thing is certain: Perperakon is far from fully understood. It stands as a reminder that history is full of places where the past seems to speak to us in whispers, offering clues, but never the full story. What remains hidden in the depths of this ancient site? And what might it still have to teach us? The answers are waiting, just out of reach, as the mystery of Perperakon endures as we move forward in our exploration of ancient structures that continue to defy explanation. We now find ourselves on the island of Sardinia, a land steeped in mystery and enigma. Hidden within its rugged landscape, far from the prying eyes of the modern world, lie the Duce de Janus, the houses of the fairies. This vast otherworldly tomb complex, carved directly into the rock, has captivated historians, archaeologists, and curious wanderers for centuries. But despite extensive research, the true purpose of these strange and monumental structures remains shrouded in the mists of time. The Duce de Janus are a series of prehistoric burial sites that stretch across Sardinia's quiet hills and valleys, some of which date back as far as 4000 BCE. These ancient tombs are carved from the island's soft limestone, but their design is far from simple. Each tomb consists of a series of chambers, some small, some large, connected by narrow passageways. These chambers, shaped with meticulous care, form a maze-like structure that mimics the architecture of houses with rounded doorways and intricately carved niches. They appear as if they were designed not just for the dead, but as homes for spirits, a place where the deceased could rest, surrounded by the trappings of a life once lived. What is truly remarkable about the Duce de Janus is their scale. Thousands of these tombs are scattered across Sardinia, each one a monumental feat of ancient engineering. Some of them are modest in size, while others are vast and complex with multiple chambers and intricate carvings. The largest tombs could accommodate a number of individuals, suggesting that these tombs were not just for isolated burials, but for entire families or even tribes. What makes these structures even more puzzling is that many of the Dois de Gurness are found in locations that are difficult to reach, perched on high cliffs or hidden in the dense forest, adding to the sense that these were sacred places not meant to be disturbed. These tombs carved deep into the limestone hills have an almost surreal quality. The walls of many of them are adorned with symbolic motifs, spirals, concentric circles, and abstract shapes that seem to evoke a sense of mystery and reverence. The precise meaning of these carvings remains unclear, as no written records have been discovered to explain them. It is widely accepted that the tombs were constructed by the pre-Nuragic people of Sardinia. But beyond this, the details are vague. Who were these ancient builders? Why did they choose to carve their tombs in such a way? And why did they invest so much time and effort into crafting these stone dwellings for the dead? Traditionally, archaeologists have suggested that the Dois de Gurness served as burial places for the island's early inhabitants, most likely associated with the Uziri culture, a prehistoric civilization that flourished in Sardinia around the 5th millennium BCE. According to this interpretation, the tombs were places of ritual where the deceased were laid to rest in an elaborate ceremonial context. Yet, the lack of clear evidence, such as written records, detailed inscriptions, or pottery, leaves much of this theory open to question. Some researchers suggest that the tombs may have served a dual purpose: burial and ritual. Could these spaces have been used for ceremonial feasts or offerings to the gods, not just after death, but as part of ongoing spiritual practices? It is possible that these tombs were intended to serve as portals between the living and the dead, a place where the living could commune with the spirits of their ancestors, maintaining a sacred connection to the past. Others, however, speculate that the Dois de Gurness might not have been used solely for burial at all. Could these tombs, with their unique architecture and spatial organization, have functioned as sacred temples or even initiation sites? The complex, almost labyrinthine structure of the tombs seems to invite such a theory. Was there a deeper, more symbolic purpose behind these subterranean spaces? One that transcended mere burial. A particularly curious aspect of the Dois de Gurness is their eerie, otherworldly appearance. In Sardinian folklore, the tombs are often referred to as the homes of fairies, which adds an additional layer of mystery to their legacy. The name itself evokes images of the supernatural, of ethereal beings living in hidden homes carved from stone. The notion of fairies and spirits living in these tombs, while folkloric in nature, speaks to a deeper cultural belief that these tombs were more than just places for the dead. They were gateways to another world, a threshold between the living and the spirit realm. Could it be that these tombs were viewed as the residences of ancient deities, or perhaps the abodes of powerful ancestral spirits? Was the act of carving these tombs an attempt to connect with a divine or supernatural force, one that was believed to inhabit the very rock off the island itself? In addition to these questions, there is the more unsettling mystery of the Dois de Gurness origins. How did a prehistoric culture, without the sophisticated tools or technologies of later civilizations, manage to carve these intricate tombs into solid rock? The precision and skill required for this kind of work suggests a level of craftsmanship and knowledge that is not fully understood. Were the builders of the Dois de Gurness simply highly skilled artisans? Or did they possess an ancient knowledge that we have yet to uncover? Some even speculate that the builders may have been influenced by ancient traditions or techniques that predate the island's known inhabitants. Perhaps even a lost civilization, whose secrets have been buried by time. And then there are the unexplained elements. Archaeologists have found strange objects buried within some of the tombs, such as animal bones, pottery fragments, and small artifacts, but nothing that definitively ties these finds to any particular culture or time period. Could these objects hold the key to understanding the true purpose of the Dois de Gurness? Or do they simply reflect the complex, diverse spiritual practices of a society that existed long before recorded history? The Dolmens de Janus remain one of the most compelling mysteries of the ancient world. They are a testament to the craftsmanship, spirituality, and ingenuity of a people whose true identity is still beyond our grasp. As we peer into these ancient tombs carved into the very bones of the island, we are left to wonder what secrets lie hidden in the stone. And what was it that these ancient builders hoped to achieve, not just for themselves, but for those who would follow them through the ages? The mystery endures unanswered, inviting us to look deeper, to search for truths that remain just beyond reach. From the windswept shores of Orkney, a group of islands far to the north of Scotland, comes a structure so enigmatic that even after centuries of study, it remains largely shrouded in mystery. The Broch of Gurness, perched on the edge of a rocky promontory overlooking the turbulent waters of the North Sea, stands as a silent sentinel to a past long forgotten. This ancient Iron Age site, dating back more than 2,000 years, is one of the most impressive BRs in Scotland and one of the most mysterious. At first glance, the Broch of Gurness appears as a simple circular stone tower, its walls rising out of the earth in defiance of time and nature. But upon closer inspection, it becomes clear that this is no ordinary structure. The broken stacks are up to 12 feet thick in places, an architectural feat that raises immediate questions. What motivated the builders to create such a dense protective barrier? And how did they manage to construct such a massive structure using only the tools available to them at the time? The Broch of Gurness is part of a broader tradition of brochs found throughout northern Scotland, particularly in Orse and the Shetland Islands. These distinctive dry stone towers were built between 500 CE and 200 CE and served as both fortified dwellings and symbols of status for the people who inhabited them. Unlike other forms of ancient architecture, the broch's circular design is unique, with walls that slope inward as they rise, giving the tower its characteristic conical shape. From a distance, it can almost appear like a giant stone beehive standing against the vast expanse of sky and sea. Despite its relatively small size, the Broch of Gurness was clearly a place of significance in its time. It sits on a strategic point commanding a view of the surrounding landscape and waters, making it an ideal location for surveillance, defense, and perhaps even ritual. It's thought to have been a place of residence, but for whom and for what purpose remains an open question. Inside the brush, the stone walls curve inward to form a single large open chamber at its core. The floor is scattered with remnants of stone-built partitions, which may have served as rooms or storage areas. A narrow stairway carved into the stone leads to the upper levels, where the inhabitants would have been able to peer out over the surrounding land. Evidence suggests that the broch was surrounded by a series of smaller buildings, likely homes or workshops, adding to the complexity of the settlement. Together, these structures create a kind of fortified village, one that appears designed to withstand both the natural elements and possible human threats. But here's where the mystery deepens. Despite being a stronghold of sorts, there is no clear indication of what the broch's inhabitants were defending themselves from. While the nearby remains of other brokers suggest a degree of regional conflict, there is no evidence of large-scale battles or invasions in the immediate vicinity of Gesse. In fact, the settlement itself appears to have been abandoned long before it could be definitively linked to any larger conflict. This leaves historians with a host of speculative questions. Was the brush a symbol of power constructed not to defend against invaders, but to demonstrate control over the land? Could it have served as a center of trade or political influence rather than a mere fortification? As with many ancient sites, the true purpose of the Broch of Gurness remains unclear. Some researchers believe it was a residence for a powerful local chieftain or leader, serving as both a home and a statement of his or her authority. The broker's sturdy construction and prominent location suggest that it may have been a place where important decisions were made, or perhaps even where rituals were held to honor gods, ancestors, or natural forces. Yet no concrete evidence has surfaced to definitively answer these questions. Adding to the intrigue is the structure's layout. Unlike most brokers, which were built as solitary towers, Greece was part of a larger settlement with multiple smaller buildings, arranged in concentric circles around the broker. Some of these structures have been interpreted as workshops, storage spaces, or homes, but the exact role they played in the daily life of Brochia's inhabitants remains uncertain. Were the people who lived here artisans, farmers, or traders? And if so, what was their relationship to Broch itself? Was it a fortress meant to protect a community, or a symbol of something larger, a ritual center, a seat of power, or a sanctuary? Some have suggested that the brush was connected to broader cultural or religious practices, possibly linked to the Pictish people who inhabited the area. The Picts, an enigmatic group known for their mysterious symbols and ritualistic practices, left behind no written records, making their beliefs and social structures difficult to fully understand. Could the Broch of Gurness have been a place where Pictish rituals were performed? Or perhaps it was a place of initiation or ancestral worship, a sacred site tied to the cycles of nature and the seasons. Interestingly, there are a number of unusual features of the BR that further fuel speculation about its purpose. For example, some researchers have pointed to the presence of unusual stone carvings which appear on some of the building stones. These markings are often interpreted as symbols, but their meaning remains ambiguous. Could they represent a form of communication or ritualistic expression, perhaps linked to a belief system that has long since vanished? Some have even speculated that the brook may have been designed to align with celestial events such as the solstices or equinoxes, suggesting that its builders had a sophisticated understanding of astronomy. As the winds whip across the northern coast of Orne, it's impossible not to feel a sense of awe and curiosity when standing in the shadow of the Broch of Gurness. The structure standing resolute against the passage of time raises more questions than answers. Was it a fortress, a home, or a sacred place? Who were the people who built it? And why did they choose to leave behind such an enigmatic legacy? Even as modern technology and archaeology continue to peel back the layers of history, there is still no definitive answer to these questions. The Broch of Gurness, like so many other ancient structures, remains a quiet testament to the past, an artifact that holds its secrets close, waiting for us to uncover them. Perhaps the mystery of the Broch is one that will never be fully solved. Or perhaps with time, we will come to understand its true significance. What remains clear, however, is that the Broch of Gurness is far more than just a stone tower. It is a gateway to the past, a place that continues to speak to us from beyond the ages, urging us to look deeper and to wonder. As we venture deeper into the mysteries of ancient structures that remain unresolved, we find ourselves on the windswept island of Gotland, situated off the southeastern coast of Sweden in the Baltic Sea. This small island, once a crossroads of trade and culture, is home to a megalithic grave mound that has puzzled archaeologists and historians for centuries. The megalithic grave mound at Gotland, known locally as Lilla Varholmen, is a silent, imposing structure that stands as a testament to the long-lost peoples who once inhabited this remote island, rising out of the landscape like a great earthen sentinel. The mound is an unmistakable feature in the otherwise flat terrain of Gotland. The earth, carefully piled and shaped by human hands long ago, covers a vast stone structure hidden beneath. At first glance, it appears as little more than a simple burial mound, another remnant of the Neolithic or Bronze Age that dots the European landscape. But as with so many ancient monuments, A closer examination reveals a complexity that goes far beyond what initially meets the eye. The mound itself is surrounded by an array of large stones, some of which are arranged in a circle or semicircle, suggesting that this was no ordinary burial site. These megaliths, massive boulders that weigh several tons, are positioned with a deliberate sense of order and purpose. Their alignment seems too precise to be accidental, hinting at an understanding of space, geometry, and possibly even astronomy. The stones, weathered by centuries of wind and rain, stand stoically, guarding the secrets of the people who erected them. The megalithic grave mound at Gotland is thought to have been constructed sometime during the late Neolithic or early Bronze Age, around 2500 to 1500 B.C. It's believed that the mound served as the final resting place for an important individual or a group of individuals, perhaps a chieftain or a religious leader. But who exactly was buried here? And why was such an elaborate burial constructed remains an open question. Was this a burial for an ordinary person? Or was the site intended for a figure of great significance, someone whose influence stretched far beyond Gotland? As with many megalithic structures, the exact function of the grave mound is unclear. Some archaeologists have suggested that it was part of a larger network of burial sites, a sort of ancestral cemetery where important figures were laid to rest. Others believe that the mound served as a ceremonial or ritualistic site where offerings were made to the gods, or where the living came to honor their ancestors. The megalithic stones arranged in such a deliberate manner suggest that the burial mound may have had a symbolic purpose as well, perhaps as a connection between the living and the dead, a gateway to the afterlife. What is perhaps most intriguing about the megalithic grave mound at Gotland is the lack of conclusive evidence about its builders. While we know that the island of Gotland was inhabited during the Neolithic and Bronze Ages, the people who constructed this mound left behind no written records or detailed artifacts that would offer insight into their identity or cultural practices. Unlike other ancient civilizations which left behind rich and detailed histories, the builders of the Gotland mound have remained largely anonymous. What we know of them comes primarily from the physical evidence left behind: stone tools, pottery shards, and fragments of bone that hint at a life now long gone. Yet the mound itself raises more questions than answers. The precise engineering required to create such a monument, especially considering the size and weight of the stones involved, suggests a society with a high degree of organization and skill. But was the technology available to these people truly capable of such feats? Some researchers of the mound may have involved the use of lost technologies, techniques for moving and shaping stones that have been forgotten over the centuries. Could the builders of the Golden Mound have had access to knowledge that has since been lost to history? Or were their methods more advanced than we give them credit for? Another intriguing element of the mound is the placement of the stones. Some searchers have suggested that the arrangement of the megaliths could align with celestial events such as the solstices or equinoxes, indicating that the builders had an advanced understanding of astronomy. If this is true, it would suggest that the mound was not just a burial site, but a place of ritual or worship tied to the cycles of the sun and the changing seasons. Could the mound have been a site of religious significance where the dead were honored as part of a larger cosmological framework? Theories surrounding the megalithic grave mound at Gotland extend beyond conventional archaeological explanations. Some have proposed that the mound was not a burial site at all, but rather a ceremonial center, a place where the living gathered to perform rites or rituals associated with death and the afterlife. Perhaps the mound was a site for ancestor worship, where the spirits of the deceased were believed to remain close to the living, offering guidance and protection. Alternatively, the megalithic stones themselves might have been intended to symbolize the connection between the earth and the heavens, a visual representation of the cyclical nature of life, death, and rebirth. But even more speculative theories have been raised. Some suggest that the site may have served as a place of healing or spiritual transformation, where initiates underwent rites of passage. Others have raised the possibility that the mound was not built by the native inhabitants of Gotland at all, but by an ancient forgotten culture from distant lands, perhaps even from the Mediterranean or the Near East. These theories are more fringe, but they add to the sense of mystery surrounding the site, inviting us to consider the possibility of lost connections between far-flung cultures and ancient knowledge that has been erased from history. Despite the wealth of questions and theories, the megalithic grave mound at Gotland remains one of the more elusive structures of the ancient world. Its builders have left no clues about their identities or intentions, and the mound itself offers only fragmented answers. Each new discovery, each new theory only deepens the sense of mystery. Was it a simple burial mound, or was it a site of spiritual or astronomical significance? Were the people who built it ordinary people, or did they possess knowledge or skills that we have yet to fully understand? As we stand before the megalithic grave mound, it becomes clear that some ancient mysteries remain beyond our reach. The mound, with its silent stones and weathered earth, stands as a reminder of what is lost to time. Yet, it also beckons us to look deeper, to search for answers that may be hidden beneath the surface. What lies beneath the mounds of earth, waiting to be uncovered? And what, if anything, do the stones themselves still have to teach us? The questions remain, lingering in the air like a whisper from the past, inviting us to wonder what else might be waiting to be discovered. As we move further into the ancient world, we come to a site where the earth itself seems to whisper secrets of a long-forgotten civilization. In central Turkey, nestled among the rolling hills of the Anatolian Plateau, lies Alaka Hoyuk, an archaeological site that, despite its quiet appearance today, holds within it a deep, unresolved mystery. Here, buried beneath the surface, lies a treasure trove of ancient structures, artifacts, and symbols that have perplexed scholars and intrigued historians for decades. The site of Alaka Hoyuk is a sprawling mound rising above the surrounding landscape. Its steep slopes reveal layers of history, one buried on top of the other. Excavations here have unearthed a complex array of buildings dating back to as far as 2500 BCE, making it one of the most important ancient sites in Turkey. It is believed that the mound was once home to a people known as the Hadeans, an enigmatic culture that predated the rise of the Hittites, one of the most well-known ancient civilizations of the region. At first glance, the site might seem like any other ancient settlement. It remains fragmented by time and erosion. Yet, as with so many ancient structures, Alaka Hoyuk tells a different story when examined closely. The site's most famous feature is the collection of monumental gateways, stone walls, and intricately decorated structures that hint at something far more sophisticated than we might expect from the time period. The most remarkable of these are the so-called Hadean gates, massive stone doorways adorned with mysterious motifs and carvings, which have led to much speculation about the culture that built them. These gateways, once part of larger fortifications or religious complexes, stand in stark contrast to the simpler, more utilitarian structures typically found in early Bronze Age settlements, carved with elaborate symbols, animal motifs, and geometric patterns. The gates raise immediate questions. What did these symbols mean to the people who created them? And why go to such great lengths to carve intricate designs into the very stones that served as the entrance to their most important buildings? Some of these motifs appear to have spiritual or ritualistic significance, suggesting that these gates were not just functional, but held deeper symbolic meaning. Could these carvings have been part of a larger religious or cultural framework, a belief system that has long since vanished? The fact that these gates remain relatively intact today is remarkable. But the unanswered questions they pose are equally intriguing. Who were the Haitians and what role did these gates play in their society? Were they merely ceremonial, marking the entrance to temples or palaces? Or did they serve a more practical purpose, like protecting the settlement from invaders or symbolizing power and prestige? Some theories suggest that the gates may have been built to reflect the status of the rulers or elites who lived in the settlement, while others propose that they were part of an ancient initiation process, guiding people through thresholds that marked their spiritual or social transformation. Inside the walls of Alaka Hoyuk, the mystery deepens further. Among the ruins of ancient houses and workshops, archaeologists have uncovered a wealth of artifacts, including pottery, tools, and perhaps most intriguingly, a collection of intricately crafted bronze objects. These items, which include ceremonial weapons, ornaments, and ritual implements, suggest that the inhabitants of Alaka Hoyuk were skilled metal workers capable of creating objects of both beauty and utility. Yet, as with many other aspects of the site, there is no clear explanation for the full significance of these artifacts. Were they simply everyday objects, or did they have a symbolic or religious purpose? Perhaps the most puzzling discovery at Alaka Hoyuk is the presence of what appears to be a massive burial complex at the heart of the mound. Archaeologists have uncovered a series of tombs, some of which contain multiple burials. These tombs, built with stone walls and covered with large slabs of rock, appear to have been used for elite individuals or possibly royalty. What makes these tombs particularly intriguing is the level of craftsmanship evident in their construction. The burial practices suggest a highly developed understanding of ritual and death. Yet there are no inscriptions or written records to explain who was buried here or why these individuals were so important. The lack of written evidence has led to widespread speculation about the identity of the people who lived at Alaka Hoyuk. While it is widely accepted that the site was inhabited by the Haitians, an ancient group with no known written language, some theories propose that the Haitians were not the original builders of the site, but rather a people who inherited it from an even older civilization. Could Alaka Hoyuk be the remnants of a culture far older than we currently understand? Could it be that the Haitians, as skilled and advanced as they were building upon the foundation of an even more ancient society, one whose knowledge and achievements have been lost to time? Adding to the mystery is the discovery of several Hittite-style artifacts, which suggests a connection between the Haitians and a later Hittite civilization. However, the exact nature of this connection remains unclear. Did the Haitians evolve into the Hittites, or were the two cultures separate but linked through trade or cultural exchange? If there was a direct link between the two, what role did Alaka Hoyuk play in this transition? Was it a center of power or a symbolic site for the Hittites, who may have drawn on the knowledge and customs of the Haitians? The mystery of Alaka Hoyuk is compounded by the site's location and its relative isolation. Nestled in a fertile region, near ancient trade routes, Alaka Hoyuk was likely an important center of commerce and culture. But why was it abandoned so suddenly? The site shows signs of a dramatic decline, with many of the buildings left incomplete, and the tombs showing signs of looting. Was this a result of warfare, climate change, or internal strife? Or was the abandonment part a larger cultural shift? Perhaps the result of new powers emerging in the region. As we look upon the remnants of Alaka Hoyuk, the unanswered questions multiply. Who were the Haitians? And what role did their mysterious civilization play in the broader story of the ancient world? What significance did the monumental gates, bronze artifacts, and elaborate burial sites hold? Was Alaka Hoyuk a cultural crossroads? Or was it the site of something far more ancient, the legacy of a civilization whose name has been lost to time. The more we uncover, the more we are left to wonder what other secrets Alaka Hoyuk might still be hiding. Could there be more to this ancient site than we have yet discovered? The answers remain elusive, as they often do with ancient mysteries. But in the shadows of these forgotten stone walls, the whispers of the past continue to beckon us, urging us to look deeper, to search for the truths that may still lie beneath. The Earth. We now turn our attention to the lush rolling hills of County Meath, Ireland, a landscape rich with ancient legends and forgotten history. It is here, in the heart of the Boone Valley, that one of Ireland's most enigmatic and mysterious monuments stands, the Mound of the Hostages. This ancient burial mound, nestled quietly among the sprawling fields and quiet pathways of the Irish countryside, has stood for millennia, holding within it secrets that remain largely beyond our grasp. The Mound of the Hostages is not just another burial site. It is a monumental feature, one that commands respect and wonder, especially when one considers its age and the precision with which it was constructed. Rising in solitary grandeur, the mound is a large circular structure composed of earth and stone surrounded by a stone curb. Stones that seem to have been carefully chosen and arranged in a deliberate pattern. Its massive size, over 40 meters in diameter and more than 10 meters tall, suggests that it was a site of great importance in its time. Yet, what is most striking about the mound is not just its imposing presence, but its setting. Situated atop a hill, the site overlooks a vast landscape, offering sweeping views across the valley. Was this strategic location chosen for its symbolic significance? Or was it merely a practical decision, a way to ensure the monument's visibility and importance to those who lived nearby? The Mound of the Hostages dates back to the early Neolithic period, around 3000 B.C., placing it among the earliest of Ireland's megalithic monuments. It was constructed by a society that had already mastered the art of stone construction, as evidenced by the intricate design of the mound and its carefully constructed passageway. But while we know the broad strokes of its history, much about the mound's purpose remains elusive. The mound was used as a burial site, and several important individuals, possibly high-status members of society, were interred there. However, the specifics of the burials remain unknown. What is particularly intriguing about the mound is that it contains a passage tomb, one of many found throughout Ireland. But this particular tomb is unusual in that it appears to be designed in a manner that reflects a sophisticated understanding of both space and astronomy. Inside the mound, the passage leads to a chamber where human remains were likely placed along with grave goods that may have held symbolic or ceremonial significance. These items, such as pottery and stone tools, suggest that the mound was not just a place of burial, but a location for ritual or ceremonial activity. The passage itself, which runs deep into the mound, is aligned in such a way that it would have been illuminated by sunlight during the winter solstice. This alignment hints at a profound understanding of the cycles of nature, perhaps indicating that the mound served not only as a tomb, but also as a place for astronomical observation or ritual related to the changing seasons. Was this alignment intentional, reflecting an ancient reverence for celestial bodies? Or was it simply a happy coincidence, a byproduct of the builder's technical skills? What makes the Mound of the Hostages particularly fascinating, however, is the story behind its name. The term hostages suggests that the mound may have been tied to a ritualistic or political practice involving the taking of hostages. Some theories propose that the mound was used as a symbolic burial site for captives or high-status prisoners, potentially offering a glimpse into the complex social and political structure of Neolithic Ireland. Could the mound have been a place where hostages, perhaps from rival tribes, were held or even sacrificed as part of a larger political or religious ritual? This theory is bolstered by the knowledge that the Neolithic peoples of Ireland practiced a form of ancestor worship, and such a practice might have extended to individuals who were captured during times of conflict. But while this interpretation is intriguing, it remains speculative, and there is no conclusive evidence to support the theory that the mound was specifically tied to the taking or sacrificing of hostages. The term hostages could simply refer to the symbolic or ritualistic nature of the burials within the mound, suggesting that these individuals were important to the community in ways we may never fully understand. Perhaps they were high-ranking leaders, tribal chiefs, or spiritual figures whose remains were placed in the mound as a form of tribute or veneration. What we do know is that the mound and others like it across Ireland holds deep symbolic and ritualistic significance. The passage tombs that dot the landscape were not merely burial sites. They were places of spiritual or political power where the living could commune with the dead and connect with the forces that governed life and death. In many ways, the Mound of the Hostages stands as a monument not only to the dead, but to the beliefs and values of the society that created it. Yet, even with all that we have uncovered, there is still so much that remains beyond our reach. Who were the people who built these tombs? And what drove them to invest so much effort and care into constructing such monumental sites? One possible explanation comes from the broader context of Neolithic Ireland, a time when the concept of power and authority was often tied to the manipulation of the natural and spiritual world. These burial mounds could have served as symbols of authority, not only for the individual interred within, but for the entire community. Perhaps they were designed to consolidate power, ensuring that the memory of the deceased would endure, and with it their influence over future generations. The careful construction and alignment of these sites might have been a means to assert the power of those buried within, a way to claim dominion over both the living and the dead. However, some theories suggest that the Mound of the Hostages could also have been part of a larger network of sites designed to foster social cohesion and solidarity. It is possible that the mound served as a focal point for the community, a place where important decisions were made, or where spiritual and political leaders gathered to discuss matters of significance. If this is true, then the mound's symbolism extends beyond the realm of the individual and into the larger structure of society itself. Yet, as with so many ancient sites, the mystery endures. Despite all that we have uncovered about the Mound of the Hostages, its full purpose remains unclear. Was it simply a burial site, a place for the dead to rest on the earth? Or was it something more? A place of ritual, power, and political significance? And what about its name? The Mound of the Hostages. Could this be a clue? A hint at a darker, more complex history tied to the practices of a long-gone people. As we stand before the silent mound, its weathered stones and deep shadows continue to offer more questions than answers. What remains hidden beneath the surface of this ancient site? And what, if anything, is yet to be uncovered about the people who built it? The Mound of the Hostages beckons us to look deeper, to continue our search for answers, and to wonder what secrets it might still hold. As we continue our journey through ancient structures that remain shrouded in mystery, we find ourselves in the rolling hills of Wiltshire, England, a region steeped in history, mythology, and the whisper of ancient rituals. Here, amidst the verdant fields and ancient groves, stands a monument that has intrigued archaeologists and historians for centuries: the Long Barrow at West Kennet. This sprawling burial mound, one of the largest and most significant of its kind in Britain, offers more questions than answers about the people who constructed it and the beliefs that motivated its creation. The West Kennet Long Barrow is located just a few miles from the iconic Stonehenge, and much like its famous neighbor, it is surrounded by an air of mystery and wonder. The barrow is a massive earthwork, stretching over 100 meters in length and originally composed of a series of large stone chambers. It is thought to have been built around 3650 BCE, making it one of the oldest and most well-preserved Neolithic burial sites in Europe. The long mound itself is composed of earth and stone, with a series of large sarsen stones placed in a precise alignment to form an entrance and chambers that once held the remains of the dead. But what makes West Kennet particularly captivating is not just its size, but its location and the questions it raises about the people who built it. Unlike most burial mounds, which are relatively simple in design, the West Kennet Long Barrow appears to have been built with a level of sophistication and care that suggests a deep understanding of space alignment and perhaps even astronomy. The entrance is aligned with the setting sun during the winter solstice, suggesting that the builders had an intimate knowledge of celestial events and cycles. Could the barrow have been designed as part of a larger ritual calendar? Was it a place where the living could commune with the dead and seek favor from the gods? Inside the barrow, a series of chambers were carved into the earth, each one large enough to house multiple bodies. The chambers were arranged in a linear fashion with a central passage leading to them. Archaeologists have uncovered the remains of at least 46 individuals within the tomb, many of whom were placed in a seated or crouched position, a burial practice that was common in Neolithic Britain. But the identity of these individuals and why they were buried here remains a subject of much speculation. One of the most compelling aspects of the West Kennet Long Barrow is the large number of artifacts found within the tomb. Stone tools, pottery, animal bones, and even human remains have been uncovered. Each one adds a layer of mystery to the story of this ancient site. Some of the items appear to be offerings, possibly left for the deceased or for the spirits believed to inhabit the site. These offerings suggest that the barrow may have served as more than just a burial site. It could have been a place of ritual and ceremony, a sacred space where the living sought to honor their ancestors and the gods. But if it was a site of ritual, what exactly were the rituals? And how did they function within the wider spiritual framework of Neolithic society? Adding to the intrigue is the fact that the West Kennet Long Barrow seems to have been used over a long period of time with several phases of construction and modification. The site was not simply abandoned after its initial use, but seems to have been maintained and possibly expanded over generations. This raises questions about the continuity of religious or spiritual practices in this area and the role that the borrower played in the lives of the people who built it. Was it a place where important leaders or spiritual figures were laid to rest? Or was it a communal site where the dead of an entire tribe or village were honored together? Some theories suggest that the Long Barrow may have functioned as a kind of ancestral shrine, a space where the dead were revered and their spirits called upon for guidance or protection. The alignment of the entrance with the winter solstice supports this idea, as solstices and equinoxes were often seen as times of great spiritual significance in many ancient cultures. Was this a time when the veil between the living and the dead was thought to be particularly thin? Were there rituals performed at the barrow during these times to honor the deceased or to seek divine favor? What we do know is that the Mound, and others like it across Ireland, holds deep symbolic and ritualistic significance. The passage tombs that dot the landscape were not merely burial sites. They were places of spiritual or political power where the living could commune with the dead and connect with the forces that governed life and death. In many ways, the Mound of the Hostages stands as a monument not only to the dead, but to the beliefs and values of the society that created it. Yet, even with all that we have uncovered, there is still so much that remains beyond our reach. Who were the people who built these tombs? And what drove them to invest so much effort and care into constructing such monumental sites? One possible explanation comes from the broader context of Neolithic Ireland, a time when the concept of power and authority was often tied to the manipulation of the natural and spiritual world. These burial mounds could have served as symbols of authority, not only for the individual interred within, but for the entire community. Perhaps they were designed to consolidate power, ensuring that the memory of the deceased would endure, and with it their influence over future generations. The careful construction and alignment of these sites might have been a means to assert the power of those buried within, a way to claim dominion over both the living and the dead. However, some theories suggest that the Mound of the Hostages could also have been part of a larger network of sites designed to foster social cohesion and solidarity. It is possible that the mound served as a focal point for the community, a place where important decisions were made, or where spiritual and political leaders gathered to discuss matters of significance. If this is true, then the mound's symbolism extends beyond the realm of the individual and into the larger structure of society itself. Yet, as with so many ancient sites, the mystery endures. Despite all that we have uncovered about the Mound of the Hostages, its full purpose remains unclear. Was it simply a burial site, a place for the dead to rest on the earth? Or was it something more, a place of ritual power and political significance? And what about its name? The Mound of the Hostages. Could this be a clue, a hint at a darker, more complex history tied to the practices of a Yonaguni people? As we stand before the silent mound, its weathered stones and deep shadows continue to offer more questions than answers. What remains hidden beneath the surface of this ancient site? And what, if anything, is yet to be uncovered about the people who built it? The Mound of the Hostages beckons us to look deeper, to continue our search for answers, and to wonder what secrets it might still hold down. As we journey through the ancient landscapes of Britain, we come upon a site that, while less famous than Stonehenge or Barrow, quietly holds its own mysteries. The Thornborough Henges in North Yorkshire. This enigmatic group of earthworks, 3 massive circular enclosures, forms a structure that remains both awe-inspiring and elusive even after centuries of archaeological study. Situated in a lush, undulating landscape near the River Ewe, these journeys are marked by their large, imposing embankments surrounded by ditches that are still remarkably well preserved despite the passage of time. The Thornborough Henges are thought to date back to the late Neolithic or early Bronze Age, around 4,000 to 5,000 years ago. The site consists of 3 concentric circles or hinges, which vary in size but share similar features. The outermost circle is the largest, with a diameter of nearly 200 meters, followed by a slightly smaller second hinge and a third inner hinge that is the smallest. The way these hinges are arranged and their massive scale suggests that this was not a simple or small-scale ritual site, but rather a complex and deeply significant location, one that would have had considerable importance for the people who built it. At first glance, the Thornborough Henges appear to be another example of the many Neolithic ceremonial sites found across Britain. However, there is something about their arrangement that sets them apart. Unlike other Henges, which are often constructed with stone circles or simple earthworks, the Thorn Henges are defined by their monumental earth embankments and their alignment to certain natural features. The hinges are aligned along a northwest-southeast axis, which some researchers believe may correspond to significant astronomical events, perhaps the solstices or equinoxes, suggesting that the builders of the Henges had a keen awareness of celestial cycles. This alignment invites a number of questions. Why were these Henges arranged in such a specific pattern? Was there an astronomical or spiritual reason behind this orientation? Could the builders have been marking the path of the sun, the moon, or perhaps other celestial bodies during their most important rituals? Could these genes have been used as giant calendars guiding the passage of time and the changing of the seasons? Some have even speculated that the genes were part of a larger ceremonial complex linking Thornborough with other nearby Neolithic monuments such as the Huffington White Horse or Silbury Hill Dot. Another curious aspect of the Thornborough genes is the way in which they seem to have been built not as isolated monuments, but as part of a larger integrated landscape. The site's proximity to the River Yu is particularly noteworthy. Rivers in ancient cultures were often seen as boundaries between the world of the living and the world of the dead, as well as pathways for spiritual journeys. Could the location of the world of the living and the world of the dead, as well as pathways for spiritual journeys. Could the location of the Lodesbenant and the world of the lived as well as pathways for spiritual journeys. Could the location as for spiritual journeys. Thornborough genes have been deliberately chosen to reflect this ancient belief, positioning the genes as gateways to the spiritual realm or as markers for an ancient ceremonial procession. The river may have served as a symbolic boundary, separating the sacred from the mundane, or it could have provided a route for participants to approach the genes in a highly ritualized manner. The construction of the genes themselves raises further questions. The sheer scale of the site suggests a high degree of organization and labor, likely involving a large communal effort. The earthworks, massive embankments of dirt and stone, would have required careful planning, not just in terms of construction, but in the coordination of resources and labor. The fact that these genes were built at a time when stone structures were still relatively rare in Britain speaks to the technical skills of the people who created them. How did they transport and move such large quantities of earth? What tools or methods did they use? Did they possess knowledge or techniques that have been lost to history? Or did they rely on simple but effective methods passed down through generations? What truly sets the Thornborough genes apart, however, is their long history of use and the apparent reverence with which they were treated. Archaeologists have uncovered evidence that suggests the genes were not just ceremonial sites, but also places where people gathered for communal activities, feasts, or even trade. Pottery fragments, tools, and other artifacts found near the genes suggest that the site was a focal point for local communities. Yet, the fact that the genes were built in a way that allowed for multiple generations to participate in the site's rituals raises a fascinating question. Was the site continually used for thousands of years? Or did it fall into disuse and then experience a resurgence at various points in its history? Some scholars have speculated that the Henges may have been linked to ancestor worship or veneration of certain deities. The alignment with the natural world, both in terms of the landscape and the celestial events, suggests that the people who built the genes had a complex understanding of their environment. Could these genes have served as markers for sacred space, guiding people to the right place at the right time for important rituals? And if so, what rituals took place here? Were they offerings to the gods? Or was the primary purpose of the genes related to the commemoration of the dead, as seen in other henge sites across Britain? Perhaps the most intriguing mystery of the Thornborough genes is the fact that the site's original function remains unclear. While it is widely agreed that the genes had some sort of ceremonial or ritualistic purpose, the specifics remain elusive. Some researchers have proposed that the genes were used as sites for mortuary practices similar to other Neolithic burial sites where the dead were honored and offerings made. Others suggest that the site was linked to agricultural rituals such as the planting and harvesting of crops, marking the cycles of life and death that were so important to Neolithic communities. Still, other theories have raised the possibility that the genes were linked to political or social power, symbols of authority used to enforce control or unity over a large region. The genes themselves are silent, their massive embankments and ditches offering little in the way of direct clues about their purpose. And yet they remain undeniably powerful, silent witnesses to a time long past. As we stand before these ancient structures, we are left to wonder what exactly were the builders of Thornborough trying to communicate. Were they reaching out to the heavens, seeking divine favor through their intricate design? Or were they building something more tangible, something meant to endure through generations as a marker of their community's power and identity? Despite the many questions, one thing is certain. The Thornborough Henges remain a testament to the ingenuity, vision, and spirituality of the people who created them. Their mystery endures, urging us to look deeper into the past and consider the forces, both natural and supernatural, that may have shaped these extraordinary structures. What was their true purpose? And what do these enigmatic earthworks tell us about the people who lived, worked, and prayed here so long ago? As with many ancient sites, the answers may remain hidden beneath the earth, waiting to be uncovered. Or perhaps, like the Genostemsevs, they will continue to stand as enigmatic symbols, pointing toward a past that we are only just beginning to understand. As we journey westward into the vast and arid expanse of the American Southwest, we arrive at a place where the echoes of a vanished civilization still reverberate through the silence of the desert. Chaco Canyon, situated in northwestern New Mexico, this archaeological wonder sprawls across a remote landscape marked by towering cliffs, rugged mesas, and deep ravines. Its harsh surroundings conceal a legacy of monumental architecture and advanced knowledge. Yet, the true purpose and meaning of the structures here remain as elusive as ever. Chaco Canyon, once the thriving center of the ancient ancestral loams, also known as the Chones, is a place where the ruins of great stone buildings rise from the desert floor. Their sharp lines and precise construction defy the natural forces of erosion that have claimed so much else in the surrounding wilderness. At its peak, between 900 and 1150 CE, Chaco Canyon was a sophisticated urban center that served as the heart of a vast network of roads, trade routes, and ceremonial sites stretching across hundreds of miles. Yet, despite its significance, Chaco Canyon remains shrouded in mystery. The heart of the site is the complex of buildings known as Great Houses. These massive multi-story structures built from stone, timber, and adobe were once bustling hubs of activity. The most famous of these, Pueblo Bonito, consists of more than 600 rooms, multiple casas, subterranean ceremonial chambers, and a large central plaza. The scale and complexity of these buildings suggest a society with advanced knowledge of architecture, engineering, and urban planning, but their exact function is still a subject of much debate. Were they simple residences for a wealthy elite? Or did they serve as ceremonial centers, as some researchers believe? What makes Chaco Canyon particularly intriguing, however, is the fact that its inhabitants seem to have built their structures with an almost otherworldly precision. The walls of Pueblo Bonito and other great houses align with solar and lunar events. Some structures were carefully positioned to mark the sunrise on the solstices, while others seem to have been designed to track the movements of the stars and planets. It is as if the people of Chaco Canyon had a profound understanding of celestial cycles and an intrinsic connection to the skies above them. But why was this knowledge merely practical, used to track time for agricultural or ceremonial purposes? Or did it reflect a deeper spiritual connection to the cosmos, one that we have yet to fully understand? The Chacoans' relationship with the sky is not merely speculative. Archaeologists have discovered that the structures in Chaco Canyon were deliberately oriented to align with the sun, moon, and stars. Some of the casas, for example, are positioned in such a way that they capture the light of the solstices and equinoxes. One of the most remarkable features of the canyon is the way its inhabitants appear to have used the canyon's geography itself as part of their celestial calculations. The placement of certain buildings seems to have been carefully coordinated with the landscape, incorporating the features of the surrounding mise and ridgelines into their larger cosmological scheme. But the question that lingers is this: how did the Chacoans possess such sophisticated knowledge of astronomy and mathematics? The scale of the structures and the precision of their alignments suggest that these people had access to a level of knowledge that was far beyond what we typically associate with ancient societies. Where did this knowledge come from? Was it passed down through generations, developed over centuries of observation and practice? Or could it have been acquired from a different source altogether? There are no written records to explain their advanced understanding, and no definitive evidence of who the Chacoans were, where they came from, or how they acquired such wisdom. Adding to the mystery is the fact that Chaco Canyon was not an isolated settlement, but rather a central hub in a vast network that stretched across the southwestern United States. Chacoan roads radiate out from the canyon like spokes on a wheel, some stretching for hundreds of miles. These roads are wide, straight, and engineered with such precision that their purpose has long confounded researchers. Were these roads simply trade routes connecting Chaco Canyon with other agricultural centers and resource-rich areas? Or did they serve a deeper symbolic purpose, linking the Chacoans with the heavens and with the spiritual world? What is certain is that these roads were built with incredible effort and planning, yet their purpose remains unclear. One of the most enduring mysteries of Chaco Canyon is its sudden decline. By the late 12th century, the Chacoans had abandoned the canyon. The reasons for this are not fully understood. Some suggest that environmental factors such as prolonged droughts may have played a role, while others point to social or political factors, including warfare or internal strife. The once thriving center of Chaco Canyon, a place of immense cultural, political, and spiritual significance, was left to crumble in the desert, its ruins slowly being reclaimed by the wind and sand. But the disappearance of the Chacoans is not the end of the story. While the people who built Chaco Canyon may have vanished, the site itself continues to exert a mysterious pull on those who study it. Even today, the ruins of Pueblo Bonito and the other great houses stand as silent sentinels, speaking to a lost culture whose achievements and knowledge still elude us. There is much about the Chacons that remains a mystery. Did they have knowledge of the cosmos that rivaled that of ancient cultures in the Old World? What drove them to build such enormous and elaborate structures in such a harsh and isolated environment? And why, after hundreds of years of thriving, did they abandon Chaco Canyon in such a dramatic fashion? Perhaps most intriguingly, there are those who speculate that the Chacoans may not have been alone in their advanced knowledge. Some theories suggest that the Chacoans had contact with other ancient civilizations, perhaps even ones that are now lost to history, who shared their knowledge of astronomy and architecture. Could Chaco Canyon have been part of a larger interconnected world of ancient societies that we have yet to uncover? As we stand before the ruins of Chaco Canyon, the same questions that have puzzled archaeologists for decades continue to hang in the air. What knowledge did the Chacoans possess, and how did they acquire it? What was the true purpose of their grand structures, and why did they abandon their great city so suddenly? These questions remain unanswered as time passes. It seems that Chaco Canyon will continue to guard its secrets, yet its ruins persist, silent and still, offering a glimpse into a world that, despite its brilliance, remains just out of reach. Could the answers to these questions be hidden beneath the sands, waiting to be uncovered by those who dare to look deeper? Or will Chaco Canyon forever stand as a testament to a lost civilization, its mysteries remaining unsolved for generations to come? Only time and further exploration will tell, as we move from the heart of the American Southwest to the far edge of the Pacific. We encounter a site that has been the subject of speculation, debate, and fascination for decades. The Yonaguni Monument in Japan. Located off the coast of Yonaguni, one of the southernmost islands in the Okinawa prefecture, this submerged structure remains one of the most perplexing and controversial underwater discoveries in the world. Beneath the waves, an enormous stone formation stretches across the seafloor. Its sharp lines, flat surfaces, and angular shapes create an eerie resemblance to a man-made monument. But is it the work of human hands or simply the result of natural forces? And if it is indeed man-made, what civilization could have created such a structure? And why? The Yonaguni Monument was first brought to public attention in the 1980s when a diver named Chihiro Arate, exploring the waters off Yonaguni Island, discovered a series of massive stone formations at a depth of roughly 20 meters. The structure appears to consist of several large rectangular terraces or platforms with right angles, smooth faces, and stair-like steps that seem to ascend from the ocean floor. The sheer size of the formation, combined with the apparent regularity of its features, quickly raised questions. Could this be the remains of an ancient submerged city or temple complex, long forgotten by history? At first glance, the Yonaguni Monument looks strikingly similar to other known megalithic structures such as the step pyramids of Mesoamerica or the stone terraces of ancient civilizations. Its right angles and geometric precision evoke the craftsmanship of a lost culture, one with knowledge of engineering and design that rivals any known civilization. However, there is no definitive evidence to prove that the monument is man-made. In fact, many mainstream geologists and archaeologists believe that the Yonaguni Monument is nothing more than a natural formation, a result of tectonic activity, erosion, and the natural processes of the Earth's crust. They argue that the regularity of the structure could be the product of natural fracturing, with the stone layers simply breaking along lines of weakness, creating shapes that appear to resemble human-made steps or terraces. But while a natural explanation is plausible, it does not fully account for all the peculiarities of the site. For example, the arrangement of the formations, which seems to follow a deliberate, almost architectural plan, raises questions about its natural origins. Some of the blocks appear too well-ordered, too symmetrical to be the work of chance. In addition, certain features of the monument, such as the presence of what appear to be tool marks or smooth, flat surfaces, suggest that humans might have had a hand in shaping these stones. If this is true, then the monument raises even more questions. Who built it and when? Could it be the remnants of a civilization that predated known history? Or could it be evidence of a lost culture whose achievements were wiped away by time and the forces of nature? Adding to the intrigue is the possibility that the Yonaguni Monument was part of a larger submerged complex, hinting at a once thriving culture along this part of the Pacific coast. Similar formations have been discovered nearby, suggesting that the site could have been much larger than what is currently visible. The idea that the monument could be part of an ancient underwater city opens the door to the numerous speculative theories. Could it have been built by a civilization that existed long before the rise of known cultures in the region, possibly even before the last ice age? Some proponents of the idea point to the possibility of a lost civilization, one whose existence was erased by rising sea levels at the end of the ice age, leaving only the remnants of their once grand structures submerged beneath the ocean. This theory, while compelling, remains highly controversial. Mainstream archaeology generally dismisses the idea of an ancient pre-Ice Age civilization in the region, largely because there is no evidence of such a culture in the historical record. The concept of a submerged city also raises the question of how such a civilization could have flourished without leaving any trace on land. The most widely accepted explanation for the Yonaguni Monument's features is that they are the result of natural geological processes shaped by millions of years of tectonic movement and erosion. Yet, some proponents of the man-made theory point to the precision and uniformity of the monument's layout as evidence that it could not have been formed purely by natural forces. There are areas of the formation that appear to have been intentionally smoothed and shaped, suggesting that the builders possessed advanced knowledge of stonework. Some even claim to see features reminiscent of human-designed structures, such as what appear to be stairs, terraces, and even a bridge-like formation. Could the monument be a remnant of a once great civilization now lost to the sands of time and the tides of the ocean? Other speculative theories offer even more daring possibilities. One idea suggests that the Yonaguni Monument might be the remains of a ritualistic or ceremonial center, perhaps used by an ancient society for astronomical purposes. The alignment of certain features could potentially correspond with specific celestial events, such as solstices or equinoxes, raising the possibility that the site was part of an ancient sacred landscape. The idea that the monument could be linked to astronomical observance is not entirely far-fetched, as many ancient civilizations, from the Egyptians to the Maya, built their structures to align with celestial events. Could the Yonaguni Monument have served a similar function? Was it a place where ancient peoples gathered to observe the stars, conduct rituals, and mark the passage of time? Despite these intriguing theories, the Yonaguni Monument remains an enigma. Its true purpose and origins are still shrouded in mystery. The debate over whether it is a natural formation or a man-made structure is far from settled, and there is no definitive evidence to confirm either theory. As with many ancient sites, the Yonaguni Monument continues to fascinate and perplex, challenging our understanding of history and the capabilities of ancient peoples. As we contemplate the submerged structure beneath the waves, we are left with many unanswered questions. Was the Yonaguni Monument built by an ancient civilization whose achievements have been lost to time? Could it have served as a ceremonial center, a place of astronomical observation, or a link to a long-forgotten spiritual tradition? Or is it simply a remarkable natural formation, a product of the Earth's geological processes that through sheer coincidence resembles a man-made structure? The Yonaguni Monument stands as a testament to the mystery of our past, a reminder that even in the modern age, there are still places that defy explanation, leaving us to wonder what secrets remain hidden beneath the waves. What knowledge or culture could have existed in this part of the world thousands of years ago? What might we still uncover if we look beneath the surface, both literally and metaphorically? The answers perhaps lie just out of reach, waiting to be discovered by those who dare to dive deeper into the mysteries of the past. As we journey further into the mysterious world of ancient megalithic structures, we turn our gaze to the rugged coast of Brittany, France. Here, nestled on a small island in the Gulf of Morbihan, lies the megalithic complex of Gurness, an ancient site that is as enigmatic as it is awe-inspiring. The island known as Île de Gavrinis is small and unassuming, but beneath the moss-covered rocks and lush greenery, a hidden treasure lies beneath the earth. The site is home to a dolmen, a massive stone burial chamber that dates back to the Neolithic period around 5000 BCE. But this is no ordinary burial site. The Gavrinis Dolmen is one of the most intricate and mysterious megalithic structures in Europe, offering a glimpse into a world that remains largely unknown. The dolmen is a burial chamber, made of large stones forming a passageway that leads to a central chamber where the remains of the deceased were once placed. At first glance, the structure seems relatively simple, but as one draws closer, the true complexity of the site begins to reveal itself. The stone passage is lined with intricate carvings, hundreds of them, etched into the rock with a level of precision that would be impressive even by modern standards. The carvings are varied, ranging from spirals and geometric patterns to more abstract motifs that are still impossible to fully decipher. Some scholars have suggested that these markings might have held spiritual or ritualistic significance, possibly linked to the ancient beliefs of the people who constructed the dolmen. The complexity of these carvings is astonishing, particularly given the tools available to the people of the time. The stones used to construct the dolmen were transported from nearby quarries, and the effort required to move such massive stones across the island is a testament to the advanced skills of the builders. But what did these carvings represent? Could they be a form of writing, or were they symbolic representations of the forces of nature, the cosmos, or the afterlife? The precise meaning of the carvings remains elusive, and the absence of any written records from the time only deepens the mystery. The placement of the dolmen on the island is also intriguing. It is located in a small clearing surrounded by dense forest, and the structure itself is oriented in such a way that it is aligned with the rising sun during the winter solstice. This celestial alignment suggests that the dolmen may have had a ritualistic purpose, perhaps serving as a place of worship or a site for observing the cycles of the sun and the stars. The builders of Gavrinis seem to have had an acute awareness of the natural world, and their understanding of astronomy may have played a key role in the construction of the site. But if the dolmen was indeed a place of celestial observation, what was its true function? Was it solely a burial site, or did it serve as a focal point for rituals and ceremonies that were tied to the cycles of the heavens? Some researchers have speculated that the carvings on the stones might represent constellations or other celestial symbols, suggesting that the dolmen was not only a burial site, but also a cosmic monument, an expression of the relationship between the people and the stars. The alignment of the dolmen with the sun could point to the belief that the dead were connected to the cosmos, and that the sun's passage through the sky marked the journey of the soul. Adding to the mystery of the Gavrinis Dolmen is the fact that the island itself appears to have been part of a larger megalithic complex across the Gulf of Morbihan. Other similar sites have been discovered, including mens and stone circles, which suggest that the people of Gavrinis were part of a much larger network of megalithic builders. The alignment of these structures, as well as the similarity in their construction and design, hints at a shared cultural or religious tradition, one that transcended local communities and united disparate groups of people across the region. But what was the extent of this megalithic culture? Was it localized to the Gulf of Morbihan, or did it stretch across the wider landscape of prehistoric Europe? The fact that similar structures can be found as far afield as Britain, Ireland, and Spain raises the tantalizing possibility of a widespread megalithic civilization that spanned much of Western Europe. Could the builders of Gavrinis have been part of a larger network of ancient societies, communicating and exchanging ideas across vast distances? Or were these megalithic sites independent of one another, each developed by distinct cultures with their own unique customs and beliefs? The evidence is inconclusive, and the mystery remains unsolved. One of the most fascinating aspects of the Gavrinis Dolmen is the way it has been preserved through the centuries. Unlike many other ancient sites which have been ravaged by time, weather, and human activity, the dolmen has remained remarkably intact. The carvings on the stones, though worn by centuries of exposure to the elements, are still discernible, offering a glimpse into a time long past. Yet, despite its relative preservation, there is still much we do not understand about the site. What were the original colors of the carvings? Were the stones once covered with some form of protective coating? Or did the builders use the natural properties of the stone to enhance the carving's visibility? These are questions that have yet to be answered. The site's isolation also adds to its allure. The small island on which the dolmen sits is accessible only by boat, making it one of the most difficult megalithic sites to visit. This isolation has helped protect the monument from the ravages of tourism and development, allowing it to retain much of its mystery. But it also raises further questions. Was the dolmen intentionally placed in such an isolated location? Did its builders choose this site because of its seclusion? Or was it simply a practical decision based on the available resources? Could the location of the dolmen have been symbolic, perhaps chosen for its proximity to the water or its alignment with the celestial movements? One of the most speculative theories surrounding the Gothic dolmen is the possibility that it was part of a much larger, now lost cultural and spiritual tradition. Some researchers suggest that the site may have been a place of pilgrimage, drawing people from across the region to pay homage to the gods, perform rituals, and honor the dead. The precise nature of the rituals remains a mystery, but the intricate carvings and the complex layout of the dolmen suggest that the site was of great significance to the people who constructed it. Could the dolmen have served as a portal to the spiritual world? A place where the boundaries between the living and the dead were believed to be especially thin. Gavrinis Dolmen is at its core a mystery, a monument to a civilization whose beliefs, customs, and ways of life remain hidden beneath layers of time. The carvings on its stones, the alignment with the sun, and the deliberate placement of the dolmen on an isolated island all hint at a profound connection between the people of Gotland and the natural world. The meaning of this connection is still unclear. As we reflect on the mysteries of Gotland, we are left to wonder what knowledge was embedded in these stones, what rituals were performed in this sacred space, and what else might still be hidden on the island, waiting to be uncovered. Gavrinis Dolmen remains a testament to the enduring power of the unknown. Its secrets wait patiently for those who dare to search for them. As we travel deeper into the ancient mysteries of the Mediterranean, we find ourselves on the sun-drenched island of Sardinia, Italy, home to some of the most enigmatic archaeological wonders of the prehistoric world. Among these relics of the past, perhaps none is more striking or evocative than the Tomb of the Giants. Located in the island's rugged interior, this monumental burial site offers a glimpse into the distant past, a past shrouded in mystery and marked by the peculiar customs of an ancient civilization that left behind little more than silent stones and unanswered questions. The Tomb of the Giants, or Tomb de Giganti, is not a single tomb, but rather a series of large megalithic burial chambers that dot the Sardinian landscape. These tombs date back to the Bronze Age, roughly 1800 to 01 BCE, and are so named because of their immense size and the giant stone slabs used to construct them. The tombs are typically rectangular with a narrow passage leading to a larger burial chamber, which often contains a collection of human remains and, in some cases, artifacts, such as pottery, weapons, and tools. The most impressive feature of these tombs is their sheer scale. Some of the tombs of the giants are over 20 meters long, with stone walls constructed from massive blocks that weigh several tons. The tombs are often aligned with the cardinal points, suggesting that they were not simply burial sites, but rather carefully designed structures with astronomical or ritual significance. The walls of the tombs are often marked with carved symbols, including spirals, crosses, and other geometric patterns, which have led some researchers to speculate that the tombs may have had a spiritual or cosmological purpose beyond mere burial. However, despite the impressive size and complexity of the tombs of the giants, very little is known about the people who built them. The civilization that constructed these tombs remains largely a mystery, as there are no written records or detailed accounts from the time. The island of Sardinia was home to various cultures throughout prehistory, but the builders of the tombs of the giants remain anonymous, their identity obscured by the passage of time. What we do know is that the tombs were likely part of a much larger cultural and religious tradition, one that extended across Sardinia and perhaps beyond. One of the most intriguing aspects of the tombs of the giants is their possible connection to the island's ancient religious practices. The tombs are often located in remote, isolated locations atop hills or mountains and are oriented toward specific celestial events such as the rising and setting of the sun or the solstices. This suggests that the tombs may have been built not only as burial sites, but also as places of ritual significance, possibly related to the cycles of the sun and the seasons. The alignment of the tombs with the natural world raises the possibility that the ancient Sardinians held a deep reverence for the cosmos and the rhythms of nature, using the tombs as a way to connect with the divine or to mark important moments in the cycle of life and death. The design of the tombs of the giants also hints at a more complex understanding of death and the afterlife. Many of the tombs are built with a long, narrow corridor leading into the central burial chamber, creating a passage that might symbolize the journey of the soul. This passageway could have represented a liminal space where the deceased were believed to transition from the world of the living to the world of the dead. The idea of a journey to the afterlife is common in many ancient cultures, and the construction of the tombs as long, narrow corridors may reflect the belief in an important spiritual journey, a rite of passage for the deceased. Another mystery surrounding the tombs of the giants is the large size of the stone slabs used in their construction. The slabs, some of which are several meters long and weigh several tons, were carefully shaped and transported from quarries to their final resting place. How were these massive stones moved? The construction of such monumental tombs would have required considerable organization and labor, and the fact that these tombs were built without the use of advanced tools or machinery raises questions about the technology and the ingenuity of the people who constructed them. Some researchers have speculated that the builders may have used primitive cranes, levers, and pulleys to move the stones, but no definitive explanation has been found. The tombs also often feature large stone slabs arranged in a semicircular or circular shape at the entrance, which could have been intended as a form of ritualistic entrance or marker. The purpose of these stone features is still a matter of debate, with some suggesting that they may have served as a symbolic boundary between the world of the living and the world of the dead. Others argue that they may have had a more practical function, serving as a protective barrier for the tombs or as a way to demarcate sacred space. Adding to the mystery of the tombs of the giants is the peculiar presence of large standing stones or giants that can be found near some of the tombs. These stones, which are sometimes as tall as several meters, may have been part of a larger ceremonial complex, possibly marking the boundaries of a sacred site. The exact role of these standing stones is unknown, but their prominence in the landscape suggests that they may have had a symbolic or religious function, perhaps serving as markers for the deceased or as representations of gods or spirits. Some have even speculated that the standing stones could represent the giants of local legend, though this remains purely speculative. Despite the many questions surrounding the tombs of the giants, some conclusions can be drawn about the society that built them. The sheer scale of the tombs and the sophisticated design suggest a society with a deep understanding of architecture, engineering, and celestial observation. The alignment of the tombs with the sun and stars suggests that the builders had a strong connection to the natural world and the cosmos, and their reverence for death and the afterlife is evident in the design of the tombs. Yet much remains unknown. Who were these people, and why did they build such massive and elaborate tombs? What was the purpose of the carvings on the stones? And what do they reveal about the spiritual beliefs of the society that created them? And most intriguingly, what can the tombs of the giants tell us about the lost history of Sardinia and its ancient peoples? As we stand before the great stone slabs of the tombs of the giants, we are left with more questions than answers. The tombs themselves are silent witnesses to a time long past. Their purpose and meaning is obscured by centuries of history, and yet they continue to captivate and intrigue, offering a glimpse into a world that has long since faded into the shadows of the past. The mysteries of the tombs of the giants may never be fully solved, but they remain an enduring testament to the ingenuity and spiritual depth of the people who built them, and to the many secrets of the ancient world that still lie hidden beneath. The earth dot nestled in the tranquil hills of Pembroke, Wales, lies a prehistoric monument that has long captured the imagination of those who encounter it. Pentre Ifan. This megalithic structure, a dolmen dating back to the late Neolithic or early Bronze Age, stands as a silent sentinel to an ancient world, whose secrets have largely faded into the mists of time. Unlike the imposing towering stone circles of Stonehenge or the vast burial mounds of the north, Pentre Ifan is modest in scale. Yet its simplicity belies a complexity that continues to confound archaeologists and historians alike. The structure itself is deceptively simple. A massive capstone weighing an estimated 16 tons rests precariously atop a series of upright stones. These stones form a megalithic chamber open to the elements and surrounded by a low circular enclosure. The dolmen stands on a slight hill commanding a sweeping view of the surrounding landscape. Lush green fields, distant hills, and the shimmering coastline of Pembroke, all stretching out toward the horizon. At first glance, the site seems almost serene, a place where the passage of time seems to slow, inviting contemplation rather than action. But the very serenity of Pentre Ifan masks the mystery that surrounds it. Who built this monument and why? What purpose did it serve for the people of its time? And what can it tell us about the ancient societies that inhabited this land? While Pentre Ifan is often described as a burial chamber, it is not the typical tomb we might imagine. Its design is strikingly different from the more elaborate burial sites found in other parts of Europe. Instead of an enclosed chamber built entirely of stone, the Pentre Ifan dolmen consists of a single massive capstone supported by just 5 large upright stones. This creates an open airy space within the structure, which would have been exposed to the elements when it was first constructed. There are no obvious signs of human remains within the chamber, and no elaborate carvings or inscriptions to hint at its purpose. And yet, despite its apparent simplicity, Priene seems to have held great significance for the people who built it. One of the most intriguing aspects of the structure is its alignment. The capstone is oriented so that it aligns with the surrounding landscape in a way that is not entirely random. Some researchers believe that the dolmen may have been used as a kind of celestial marker, perhaps designed to align with the movements of the sun or moon at certain times of the year. The site's positioning on a hill with sweeping views of the surrounding area suggests that it may have had a ritualistic or ceremonial function, serving as a focal point for ancient rites tied to the cycles of nature. This theory is bolstered by the fact that many similar structures found across Britain and Europe appear to be aligned with astronomical phenomena, such as the solstices or equinoxes. Could the Pentagon have been used as a kind of primitive observatory where ancient peoples tracked the movement of celestial bodies to mark the passage of time, or perhaps to guide agricultural or religious activities? Yet there is another layer of mystery to Pentre: its sheer construction. The capstone at 16 tons is an immense weight for a society that had no advanced machinery. How was it moved and positioned to top the upright stones? Was it placed with simple tools, or did the builders employ more sophisticated methods that we can only guess at today? The stone slabs of the dolmen are made of sandstone, a material that is relatively soft compared to some of the harder stones used in other megalithic structures, such as those at Stonehenge. This raises the question: why did the builders choose this specific material, and how did they transport it to the site? Did they quarry the stones locally, or were they carried over great distances? The very size of the monument also raises questions. Given the apparent simplicity of the dolmen, one might assume that it was the work of a small, isolated community. Yet, Pentre Ifan's careful construction and the effort required to move and position the massive stones suggest a level of organization that hints at a larger social structure. The monument's position on a hill suggests it was visible from a great distance, implying that it may have had a public or communal function, perhaps serving as a landmark or as a gathering place for ritual activities. But if it was indeed a center for communal rituals, who were the people who gathered there? And what was the nature of the rituals that took place? Were these rites religious in nature, tied to the veneration of ancestors, or were they connected to the cycles of the natural world? Or perhaps Pentre was a marker of some kind of early political power, its construction representing a unified effort to mark a particular territory or boundary. Adding another layer to the mystery is the possibility that Pentre Ifan is part of a much larger network of megalithic structures spread across the region. Similar dolmens and stone circles can be found in the surrounding area, suggesting that there may have been a broader cultural or religious tradition that tied these structures together. Some researchers have speculated that Pentre Ifan could have been part of an ancient road or ceremonial pathway, linking it to other sites in the landscape. Its strategic position at top, a hill with views over the valley below, suggests that it may have been a key marker in ancient ritual landscape, perhaps part of a larger network of megalithic sites that served as spiritual waypoints for the people of the time. But if this theory holds any weight, then what was the purpose of this network? What were the beliefs that drove these early peoples to construct such grand structures? And what did they hope to achieve by aligning them in this way? Despite these tantalizing questions, the purpose of the Pentagon remains elusive. Some scholars believe it was simply a burial chamber, albeit one with a unique design. Others argue that it may have been a place of ritualistic significance, a site where ancient peoples performed ceremonies related to the cycles of nature or the veneration of the dead. Some have even speculated that the site could have been a place of astronomical observation, where early societies tracked the movements of the stars, sun, and moon. But no one theory fully explains the monument's construction, its alignment, or the apparent lack of definitive artifacts or evidence to confirm its purpose. As we stand before the stones of Pentre Ifan, it is impossible not to be struck by the sense of mystery that envelops the site. The dolmen stands quietly, almost imperceptibly, in the Welsh countryside, its purpose and meaning lost to time. Yet its construction and position in the landscape suggest that it was a place of great significance to the people who built it. Perhaps a place of ceremony, perhaps a center for celestial observation, or perhaps a symbolic marker in an ancient ritual landscape. The questions surrounding Pentre Ifan may never be fully answered, but the very act of standing before the stones invites you to reflect on the people who built it and on the deep, enduring mysteries that still lie hidden in the ancient past. What were they trying to tell us? What knowledge did they embed in the stones that we have yet to uncover? And what else, if anything, might still be hidden beneath the earth, waiting to be discovered? As we turn our attention to the island of Malta, nestled in the heart of the Mediterranean, we encounter one of the most remarkable and perplexing archaeological sites in the ancient world, the megalithic temples of Malta. These temples, built between 3600 BCE and 2500 BCE, represent some of the oldest freestanding stone structures in the world. Constructed by a long-forgotten civilization, they stand as silent witnesses to a time long past. Yet their purpose, their creators, and the rituals that may have taken place within them remain shrouded in mystery. The temples are scattered across Malta and its sister island Boo, with Hal Saflieni, Hypogeum, and Gansham being among the most famous. When one stands before these megalithic wonders, the sheer scale and engineering prowess of their creators is immediately striking. Massive stone slabs, some weighing as much as 50 tons, form the walls and inner chambers of the temples. These stones, some of which were quarried miles away, were transported and precisely arranged to create complex multi-chambered structures that still defy modern understanding in terms of construction and purpose. The Gantisha temples on Gu are the oldest of these megalithic monuments, with their construction dating back to around 3600 BCE, some 500 years before the construction of the Egyptian pyramids. The site consists of two temples, one smaller and one larger, each encircled by a boundary wall. What is immediately apparent is the scale of the stones used. Massive slabs that were carefully shaped and arranged to create a structure that remains impressive even after millennia. What makes the site even more fascinating is that there are no clear records of the people who built them, leaving us with only a handful of theories to explain their origins. The prevailing thought among archaeologists is that these temples were used for religious and ceremonial purposes. The alignment of the structures suggests that they may have been carefully positioned to correspond with celestial events like the solstices and equinoxes, pointing to a people with advanced knowledge of astronomy. The placement of the stones, the orientation of the temples, and even the layout of the inner chambers suggest that the builders of these temples were deeply attuned to the natural world. But what kind of rituals took place inside these massive stone chambers? Was it a place for communal worship, a site for the veneration of ancestors, or perhaps something more profound, an attempt to bridge the human and divine worlds? Some researchers have proposed that the temples were constructed not just for ceremonial purposes, but as places of fertility worship. The island of Malta, with its rich agricultural lands, would have been fertile ground for such beliefs. The numerous statues and figurines discovered at these sites, often depicting exaggerated female forms with large breasts and hips, have led to theories that the temples were built to honor fertility deities. The temple's round, sweeping shapes and the emphasis on fertility symbols suggest that these early Maltese peoples may have viewed the earth as a living, nurturing force that required reverence and ritual to maintain its bounty. However, while the idea of fertility rituals is compelling, it does not fully explain the temple's design, or how did the builders manage to move the massive stones? The stones used in the construction of the temples were not local. They were transported from distant quarries, suggesting an organized, well-coordinated effort. How did a civilization without sophisticated tools or technology manage to create such precise and durable structures? What kind of engineering knowledge did these people possess? Some theorists even entertain the possibility that these structures were built by a culture far more advanced than we have yet been able to comprehend, though such ideas remain speculative at best. Equally perplexing is the possibility that the temples were connected to an unknown form of astronomical observation, watching the movements of celestial bodies to guide their agricultural practices, religious rites, or even the marking of time. Some researchers have pointed to the orientation of certain temples, especially the Managra temples, which appear to be aligned with the rising and setting sun during the solstices and equinoxes. This kind of astronomical awareness is not surprising in ancient cultures, but the sheer sophistication and accuracy of the alignment in the Maltese temples suggests that the people of was ahead of their time. While the mainstream explanations for the temple's function revolve, there are fringe theories that go further, suggesting that these temples might have been part of a much larger lost cultural tradition. Some have speculated that the temples were not simply ceremonial, but might have served as part of a complex network of megalithic structures that spanned the Mediterranean. If these temples were used for astrological purposes, could they have been part of a broader tradition of ancient astronomy shared across islands and cultures of the time. Were the megalithic builders of Malta connected to other ancient civilizations, like the Egyptians or the Samaritans, who also had a keen understanding of the stars? Adding to the mystery of the megalithic temples of Malta is the inexplicable disappearance of the culture that built them. By around 2500 BCE, the temples seem to have been abandoned. There are no clear indications as to why the temples were left behind. Did the civilization that built them succumb to some environmental or social collapse? Or did their rituals and religious practices simply fall out of favor? No written records or concrete evidence provide an explanation for their abandonment. It's as if the people Malta simply vanished, leaving behind only the stones to tell their tale. The mystery of the people behind these structures deepens when we consider their disappearance. What happened to these skilled builders and astronomers? Could they have migrated, leaving their sacred sites to become overgrown with time? The megalithic temples on Malta also stand out due to the mysterious nature of the artifacts found at the sites. While many statues and figurines have been unearthed, none of them have provided definitive answers as to the religious or social practices of the people who built the temples. Could these statues represent deities, ancestors, or abstract concepts? The absence of written language only deepens the enigma, leaving us with more questions than answers. As we stand before the towering stones of the megalithic temples of Malta, we are reminded of the elusive nature of ancient knowledge. These remarkable structures, built long before the rise of modern civilizations, speak to a people whose beliefs and technological capabilities continue to defy our understanding. Their creators have left us only fragments, a series of monumental stones, some celestial alignments and symbols etched into the rock. But despite our best efforts, we remain unable to fully unlock the secrets of the people who built them. What drove the builders of Malta's megalithic temples? Was it a quest for spiritual connection with the heavens, an effort to honor the forces of nature, or something entirely different? What else, if anything, might still be hidden in the shadows of these ancient structures? As we ponder these questions, we are reminded that the past is never truly gone. It lingers, waiting to reveal its mysteries to those who are patient enough to seek them. And perhaps, just perhaps, there are still more secrets waiting to be uncovered beneath the sun-baked stones of Malta's megalithic temples. As we continue our journey through the ancient structures of the world, we come upon one of the most enigmatic features that seem to transcend cultures and geographies: ancient giant stone foundations. These massive, precisely fitted stone platforms, often embedded into the earth or constructed at top hills, remain as silent and immovable witnesses to a time long past. Scattered across the globe, from the deserts of Peru to the highlands of the Near East, these stone structures continue to baffle archaeologists, historians, and even engineers. One of the most striking examples can be found in the ancient ruins, so large that modern cranes would struggle to move them. Some of the stones weigh upwards of 100 tons, and yet they are cut with such precision that not even a blade of grass could slip between them. What is even more perplexing is that there is no clear record of how these massive stones were transported, let alone how they were shaped and assembled so seamlessly. The stones of Chaco form a series of immense terraces and walls, each layer stacked upon another, creating a structure that appears almost alive, as if it were carved directly from the landscape itself. Some of the stones are so large that their transportation would have been a feat beyond the capabilities of any known ancient technology. No evidence of the tools that could have achieved such precision has been found at the site. While it is clear that the Inca civilization, who are credited with the construction of the site, possessed advanced engineering knowledge, it is the sheer scale and intricacy of the work that raises questions. How did they move and fit such massive stones together with no mortar, relying solely on the precision of their cuts? And perhaps more intriguingly, why did they choose to build in such a methodical, almost otherworldly manner? Across the world, similar mysteries abound. In Baalbek, Lebanon, the Temple of Jupiter stands as a testament to the ancient power of stone. The foundations of the temple include 3 of the largest stones ever quarried, each weighing an estimated 800 tons. These stones, known as the Tralleis, are so immense that it is difficult to fathom how they were transported to the site. Local legends claim that the stones were moved by the gods, and modern engineers have struggled to replicate the methods that might have been used to lift and position these massive blocks. What makes the Tralleis even more puzzling is the way in which they are placed. They rest atop a series of other stones, forming a perfectly level foundation for the temple. The level of precision involved in placing stones of such enormous size, and the fact that they have remained perfectly in place for over 2,000 years, suggests a deep understanding of engineering and geology. Yet the methods behind their construction remain elusive. Did the builders use advanced techniques that have been lost to history? Or were these structures the product of knowledge that predates known civilizations? Could there have been another forgotten culture capable of such feats? Or were these sites constructed by people whose technological sophistication was far beyond what we assume for their time? The mystery deepens when we consider that both Sakayan and Baalbek share something beyond their sheer scale. A foundation made of massive, meticulously placed stones set deep into the earth. These foundations do not appear to have served any practical function in the context of the structures they support, suggesting that they were designed with a purpose beyond mere utility. Some kind of earth energy? Or were they designed to create a sense of permanence, making the structure seem as though it had always been there, embedded in the natural world? Perhaps they were more than just foundations. Perhaps they were meant to represent a connection to the divine, to the ancestors, or to forces beyond the human realm. This theme of ancient foundations, massive stones embedded deep in the earth, can be found across the world. In Machu Picchu, also in Peru, the Inawatana stone, often referred to as the hitching post of the sun, is positioned on a small hill overlooking the site. The stone is carefully carved into a precise shape, and though its exact function remains speculative, it is believed to have had astronomical or ceremonial significance. What is most intriguing is its placement. It is set atop a small platform of large stones, some of which are nearly as large as the ones found at Sakai Huan Dot. Was this just another foundation, or was it part of a larger, more complex structure, whose purpose has since been forgotten? In the far reaches of Gobasi in southeastern Turkey, we find a different yet equally perplexing example. This site, dating back to around 9600 BCE, features massive T-shaped pillars arranged in circular patterns. These stone pillars, which weigh several tons each, are intricately carved with animals, symbols, and mysterious motifs. The sheer size and number of the pillars at Göbekli, set into the ground with precise alignment to celestial events, suggest that the site was both an astronomical observatory and a ritual center. But what is most curious about Göbekli is the fact that it was intentionally buried, perhaps to preserve its secrets. Who created such an elaborate site? And why so far back in time, when the supposed cradle of civilization was still millennia away? And why did they go to such lengths to hide it? The foundations of these ancient sites, often massive stone structures set deep into the earth or atop sacred hills, hint at something far more profound than mere engineering feats. These monuments, built by civilizations with far less advanced technology than we possess today, suggest an ancient knowledge of the earth and the cosmos, and a reverence for the natural world that we have lost in the modern era. The builders of these sites seem to have understood something deeper, something that goes beyond the material realm. Perhaps they were seeking to create a connection between the heavens and the earth, using the very stones of the landscape to anchor their beliefs, their rituals, and their understanding of the universe. But the questions remain. Were these ancient stone foundations merely a practical necessity, or did they represent something more? Were the builders trying to create a permanent connection with the earth? Or were they tapping into forces beyond their understanding? Were they merely constructing temples and ceremonial centers? Or were they establishing a broader, more complex network of spiritual or astronomical significance? The giant stone foundations we encounter across the world remain a tantalizing mystery. They stand as evidence of a time when ancient people sought to harness the forces of the earth, the heavens, and the unknown. And though we may never know the full extent of their purpose or their creators, we are left with one undeniable truth. These massive stones, some of the oldest and most durable structures ever built by human hands, continue to challenge our understanding of ancient civilizations. The question remains, what knowledge, wisdom, and secrets do these stones still hold beneath their surface, waiting to be discovered? What might still be hidden, buried in the earth, waiting for us to unlock its meaning? As we journey into the rugged expanse of the North Caucasus in Russia, a landscape defined by towering mountains, dense forests, and primitive valleys, we encounter an ancient mystery that has remained largely hidden from the public eye for centuries. Strewn across this remote region are the dolmens, stone structures that have long captivated the imagination of archaeologists and historians alike. These dolmens, found in clusters throughout the Caucasus, are believed to date back as far as 5,000 years, yet their true purpose and the identity of their builders remain elusive. A dolmen in its simplest form is a megalithic structure made up of large stone slabs arranged to form a chamber or tomb. At a glance, the dolmens of the North Caucasus resemble their counterparts in other parts of the world, such as those in Western Europe or the Middle East. But what sets these structures apart is the sheer scale and the mystery that surrounds them. Many of the stones used in the construction of these dolmens are of enormous size, with some slabs weighing several tons. They are typically arranged in a rectangular or circular fashion with large capstones resting atop upright stones. The interiors of the chambers vary, but in many cases they have been found to contain human remains, pottery, and other grave goods, suggesting that the dolmens were used as burial sites. Yet, as with so many ancient structures, the answers to fundamental questions remain frustratingly elusive. Who were the people who constructed these monumental stone structures? How did they manage to transport and position such enormous stones? Especially considering that the region's rugged terrain and lack of advanced tools should have made such a feat nearly impossible. And most intriguingly, why did they build these dolmens in such isolated, remote locations? The North Caucasus dolmens are not evenly spread throughout the region. Rather, they seem to be clustered in specific areas, often in close proximity to natural springs or fertile valleys. Some researchers have suggested that the dolmens were built by ancient tribes with a deep connection to the land, perhaps as part of a spiritual or religious practice. The presence of these dolmens near sources of water may indicate that the builders believed the stones had some sacred mystical significance, possibly linked to the life-giving power of water or the cycles of nature. One of the most striking features of the dolmens in the North Caucasus is the precision with which they were constructed. Many of the stones have been carefully shaped, fitted, and positioned with an accuracy that defies the tools and technology typically associated with ancient civilizations. In some cases, the stones are so tightly fitted that even a thin blade of grass cannot slip between the seams, leading some archaeologists to wonder whether the builders possessed a kind of advanced knowledge or technique that has since been lost to history. theories abound as to how these massive stones were moved and set into place. Some believe that the builders employed a simple system of levers and ramps, while others suggest that more sophisticated techniques, such as the use of large wooden sledges or even water flotation, might have been involved. Still, no definitive explanation has been found to account for the remarkable engineering involved in the dolmen's construction. How did the ancient people of the Caucasus move and manipulate stones that weighed several tons in a region that lacked the kind of infrastructure that would support such monumental projects? Adding to the intrigue is the fact that many of the dolmens in the North Caucasus appear to have been deliberately constructed with astronomical or celestial alignments in mind. Some of the structures are positioned in ways that seem to correspond with the movement of the sun, moon, or stars. Could these dolmens have been built to track specific celestial events such as the solstices or equinoxes? The careful positioning of the stones, the large capstones, and the seemingly deliberate placement of the dolmens within the landscape suggest that the builders may have had an advanced understanding of astronomy, a knowledge that many ancient cultures seem to share. But how did these ancient peoples come to possess such sophisticated astronomical knowledge? And why did they feel the need to incorporate it into the construction of these mysterious structures? Another element of the dolmens that remains unexplained is their function. While many archaeologists believe they were used as tombs, there is little evidence to suggest that they were exclusively burial sites. Some of the chambers have been found to contain only skeletal remains, while others show signs of ritual activity with pottery, animal bones, and even carved stones being discovered. Inside, did the dolmens serve as places of worship where ancient people came to honor their ancestors or connect with the divine? Or were they designed as symbols of power or territorial markers, denoting the dominance of a particular tribe or culture? The lack of written records makes it difficult to ascertain the exact purpose of these structures, leaving only speculative theories to fill the gaps. Interestingly, the construction of the dolmens seems to have spanned several centuries, suggesting that they were not the work of a single culture or civilization, but rather a long-standing tradition that evolved over time. Some scholars have proposed that the dolmens of the North Caucasus were built by a series of interconnected tribes, each adding to the structures over time or modifying them to suit their own needs and beliefs. This theory could explain the variations in the size, shape, and alignment of the dolmens, as well as the lack of uniformity in the construction techniques. If this is the case, it raises an even more profound question. What cultural or religious forces sustained this building tradition for so many centuries, and why did it eventually disappear? The mystery of the dolmens is compounded by the fact that many of them remain hidden, buried beneath layers of soil or overgrown with vegetation. Some have been looted, their treasures and secrets lost to time. Others stand in near-perfect isolation, as if deliberately left untouched by human hands. Could it be that the dolmens of the North Caucasus were once part of a much larger network of ancient sites? Structures that were spread across the region and perhaps even across other parts of the world. The lack of concrete evidence makes it difficult to determine the true extent of the collision, and perhaps even across other parts of the world. The lack of concrete evidence makes it difficult to determine the true extent of the war dolmen builders' reach. But the possibility that these structures were part of a greater long-lost civilization continues to fuel speculation and intrigue. As we stand before the dolmens of the North Caucasus, we are reminded of the mysteries that lie hidden beneath the earth, waiting to be uncovered. These massive stone structures, seemingly simple in their form, hold within them a wealth of unanswered questions. Questions about the people who built them, their knowledge, and their beliefs. Despite centuries of study, we have yet to fully unravel the secrets of the dolmens, and the answers may never be found. Perhaps these ancient monuments are not just physical structures, but symbolic representations of the mysteries that will always remain just beyond our reach. As we ponder their meaning, we are left with one haunting thought. What else buried deep within the stones is still waiting to be discovered? Nestled on the island of Sardinia, Italy, amid rolling hills and sun-dappled valleys, lies one of the most intriguing and enigmatic sites of ancient architecture, the megalithic sanctuary of Monte Decati. Unlike any other structure in the Mediterranean, this sacred site stands as a testament to a civilization whose purpose and beliefs remain as elusive as the structure itself. At first glance, Monte Decati appears as little more than an imposing stone platform rising from the earth, surrounded by the quiet rural landscape. Yet, as you approach, the scale and mystery of this monument begin to reveal themselves. The sanctuary is composed of a series of terraced step platforms made of large stone blocks, arranged to form a structure that vaguely resembles a stepped pyramid or a ziggurat rising from the ground in a series of ascending levels. The platform is topped with a flat rectangular area, which some believe may have once been the location of ritual ceremonies or sacrifices. The sheer size of Monte Decati is both awe-inspiring and perplexing. Standing at just over 8 meters in height and spanning approximately 30 meters in length, the monument is crafted from large blocks of limestone, each carefully arranged and fitted with remarkable precision. The stones are believed to have been transported from quarries several km away, raising immediate questions about the techniques used by the ancient builders. How did these people with no advanced tools or machinery move and position such massive stones? And what purpose did this grand structure serve in a society that left no written records? While the structure itself is striking, it is the surrounding elements of the site that make Monte Decati even more intriguing. A large rectangular area at the top of the platform appears to have been used for some form of ritual activity, possibly involving fire or offerings. The flat surface shows signs of wear and soot, suggesting that it may have been the site of sacrifices or other ceremonial acts. But who were these ancient people, and what drove them to build such a monument in the first place? What beliefs, spiritual or otherwise, motivated the creation of Monte Decati? The mystery of this site deepens when you consider the age of the monument. Radiocarbon, dating places the sanctuary's construction at around 4000 BCE, far earlier than many other similar megalithic sites in the Mediterranean. This places the sanctuary in a time when the concept of large-scale architectural projects was still in its infancy across much of the ancient world. So, who were the people who built Monte Decati? Were they part of a larger advanced civilization that has since been lost to history? Or was this structure the work of a smaller localized group with their own unique traditions and knowledge? One of the most puzzling aspects of Monte Decati is its resemblance to other ancient structures found far beyond the Mediterranean. The step platform with its terrace structure and flat top bears a striking resemblance to the ziggurats of Mesopotamia, which would not be built until several millennia later. How did the builders of Monte come to design such a structure? Were they influenced by distant cultures? Or did they independently develop similar architectural forms? Could the sanctuary be part of a larger trans-regional tradition of megalithic construction that spanned across ancient Europe and the Near East? Or is this simply a remarkable coincidence, an isolated phenomenon in the distant past? To complicate matters further, some archaeologists have suggested that the site might have served not only as a religious or ceremonial center, but also as an astronomical observatory. The alignment of Monte Decati with celestial bodies is striking. Some researchers have proposed that the monument was designed to track the movements of the sun or the moon, pointing to the fact that the structure faces directly toward the setting sun at certain times of the year. The possibility that the sanctuary had an astronomical function is tantalizing, and it raises the question of how advanced the builders' knowledge of the stars and the seasons may have been. Were these ancient people observing the heavens, connecting their rituals to celestial cycles in ways that we can only begin to understand? Beyond these practical and astronomical explanations, the symbolic nature of the sanctuary adds yet another layer of mystery. The very form of Monte Dakota, a step pyramid with a flat top, suggests that it was a place where the earth and the heavens met. It is a form often associated with ancient rituals that seek to bridge the gap between the mortal and divine realms. The shape itself could have symbolized a connection between the Nes, underworld, and the sky, with the tiers of the platform representing a journey or ascent to the gods. But why did the builders choose this particular form? Was it simply an aesthetic decision, or did it have deeper, more profound significance? What spiritual or religious ideas might have influenced the design of the sanctuary? And how did the people who built it view the world around them? Some fringe theories speculate that the sanctuary of Monte Dakota may have had a far more mysterious and advanced purpose. Some have suggested that it might have been part of an ancient lost civilization with knowledge that far surpassed that of the time. The precision with which the stones are cut and placed, combined with the monument's remarkable alignment with celestial events, has led some to speculate that the builders possessed a level of technological sophistication that is difficult to comprehend. Could Monte be a remnant of a forgotten people who had access to knowledge or tools that we have yet to uncover? Or are we simply looking at the work of an ancient society with unique, but not necessarily extraordinary knowledge and skills? What remains undisputed is that Monte Dakota, with its strange design, astronomical associations, and mysterious purpose, stands as one of the most enigmatic monuments in Italy. Despite the years of study and excavation, we are still no closer to fully understanding the people who built it or the reasons behind its construction. The lack of written records or clear cultural context means that much of the site's meaning remains locked in the past, waiting to be deciphered. As we reflect on the mystery of Monte Dakota, one thing becomes clear: it is not simply the structure itself that is intriguing, but the many unanswered questions it raises. Was it a place of spiritual significance, a connection to the divine, or something more practical? What was the role of this site in the larger context of ancient Mediterranean culture? And perhaps most fascinating of all, what other hidden truths lie beneath the surface waiting for us to uncover? The mystery of Monte Dakota endures, leaving us to wonder what secrets the stones may still hold. As we journey to the ancient heart of Western Turkey, we find ourselves standing amidst the crumbling remnants of the holistic city of Priene, a site whose timeless beauty and intricate ruins provoke more questions than answers. Nestled at the foot of Mount Mal, with its sweeping views over the Aegean Sea, Priene offers a glimpse into a world that thrived over 2,000 years ago. Yet, despite its rich history and remarkable architecture, the story of Priene remains shrouded in mystery. At first glance, Priene might appear like any other ancient Greek city, its layout orderly, its structures grand. But as we step deeper into its streets, the city seems to whisper secrets that still elude modern understanding. The city was carefully planned according to the principles of classical Greek architecture. Its streets are laid out in a grid pattern, a mark of Hellenistic precision. Its homes, temples, and public buildings were constructed with an eye for both function and beauty. The famous Temple of Athena, standing at the city's highest point, is a testament to this blending of art and engineering. Though only a few columns remain standing today, what remains is enough to evoke a profound sense of the past, of a time when this city was a center of culture, commerce, and religious life. Pin's strategic position at the foot of Mount Macaulay suggests it was not only a hub for trade, but also a site of great spiritual significance. The city's proximity to the sea would have made it a vital link between the Iron world and the ancient civilizations beyond. While the surrounding mountains provided a sense of protection and isolation, reinforcing the idea of the city as both a center of civilization and a sanctuary. But despite its well-documented history, there is something undeniably peculiar about Penn. Something that defies the usual narratives of ancient urban development. One of the most striking features of Penn is its remarkable preservation, particularly its urban planning. The city's architects seem to have had an almost supernatural understanding of the surrounding landscape. Every building, every street was carefully positioned, seemingly with a deep knowledge of both the environment and celestial events. The main streets, for example, align perfectly with the points of the compass, an astonishing feat of urban planning that would have required knowledge of astronomy far beyond what we might expect from ancient Greeks. This raises the question, were the city's founders simply exceptionally skilled in the art of city planning, or did they have access to knowledge or tools lost to history? One of the most famous features of Penn is its remarkable grid system, a sign of the Greeks' adherence to the concept of symmetry and order. The city's street layout follows a strict orthogonal pattern, which was typical of Greek city design. But what is intriguing here is the level of precision involved in this urban organization. Was this simply a reflection of Greek cultural ideals? Or did the planners of Priene possess a more profound understanding of geometry, one that was passed down from older, perhaps even more advanced civilizations? Furthermore, the city was meticulously laid out in accordance with the natural terrain. The planners of Priene took full advantage of the steep slope of Mount Macau, constructing terraces and roads that allowed the city to grow organically with the land rather than against it. The city's walls and public structures, like the Great Theater, seem to have been placed in locations that were not only practical but also symbolic. The positioning of these structures suggests a deeper connection between the city and the natural world. Were these placements designed to honor celestial events or geographical features, or were they simply the work of engineers using the natural landscape to their advantage? Adding to the intrigue of Priene is the story of its decline. The city was once a thriving port, but over time, the course of the Meander River shifted, causing the city to lose its access to the sea. Without this vital connection to trade routes, Penn's influence waned and the city eventually fell into decline. However, this shift in the river's path also raises an unsettling question. Was the city's location chosen with foresight, understanding, or even manipulation of environmental factors? And when the natural order of the landscape changed, were the inhabitants of Priene helpless to stop the fall of their great city? The slow creeping decline of the city in response to changing environmental conditions mirrors the rise and fall of many other ancient civilizations. But could the city's very layout and its eventual downfall point to deeper unspoken truths about the relationship between human settlements and their surrounding environments? Equally fascinating is the role of the Temple of Athena, the largest structure in Pindon. While only a few columns of the temple remain standing today, it is believed to have been one of the most important religious sites in the city. The temple's location, perched high on a terrace overlooking the rest of Priene, would have made it a powerful focal point both physically and symbolically. What was the significance of Athena to the people of Penn? Why was her temple positioned with such reverence, overlooking the entirety of the city? Could the Temple of Athena have been more than just a religious site? Was it also a center of knowledge? A place where ancient wisdom, perhaps connected to the city's grid and layout, was passed down to future generations. There are whispers among historians that the city of Priene may have been more than just a Greek city. Some have speculated that the planners of Priene may have been influenced by older pre-Hellenistic civilizations that possessed a more profound understanding of geometry, astronomy, and sacred architecture. Could Priene be the product of a more ancient tradition? One that survived the collapse of earlier civilizations only to be adapted and refined by the Greeks. The level of sophistication seen in the city's design certainly suggests that the knowledge required to build Priene could have come from somewhere far older than traditionally believed. As we stand among the ruins of Priene, what knowledge, what secrets did the original inhabitants of this city possess? And why have they remained hidden from us for so long? Was the precise urban planning of the city a reflection of a forgotten system of knowledge? Or was it the culmination of centuries of accumulated understanding? Could the city's design, with its uncanny alignment with celestial bodies, point to something more than mere architectural ingenuity? And in a world where we continually strive for order, structure, and harmony, how much of Priene's wisdom still echoes in our own built environments? The city of Priene remains a testament to ancient knowledge and design. Yet, it also remains an enigma. As we dig deeper into its past, we may uncover more about the mysteries of its creation. But until then, we are left with the whispers of its stones, urging us to ask questions about the relationship between humans, the land they inhabit, and the knowledge they leave behind. What was the true purpose of Priene? And what wisdom might still be buried within its streets, waiting to be uncovered? As the iron winds sweep across the plains of western Turkey, the ancient city of Tralleis stands as a forgotten monument to the religious and cultural aspirations of a long-lost civilization. Located near the modern town of Aydın, the Tralleis sacred complex is a site that offers more questions than answers, even as it reveals glimpses into the grandiosity of the ancient world. The ruins of Trolls are often overlooked by tourists, overshadowed by the more famous ruins of Ephesus and Mitus. Yet, the city holds a unique place in the history of ancient Anatolia. In its prime, Tralleis was a prosperous city known for its strategic position along key trade routes and its role as a center of art, philosophy, and religion. It was a hedonistic city with Roman influences. And like many ancient cities, it boasted grand temples, theaters, and public spaces. However, what truly sets Tralleis apart is the enigmatic nature of its sacred complex, an architectural and spiritual center that has puzzled archaeologists for centuries. The Tralleis sacred complex is believed to have been a focal point of religious activity in the city. The structure itself is only partially understood, as much of it lies buried beneath the earth, lost to time and the ravages of history. What remains, however, is enough to spark curiosity about its original design and purpose. At the heart of the complex, a large, well-preserved structure stands, likely a temple or sanctuary. The walls of this edifice, though crumbling and weathered, are still adorned with intricate carvings and inscriptions that speak of a rich religious culture. Some of these inscriptions suggest that the temple was dedicated to Artemis, a goddess of the hunt and wilderness, while others reference various Roman deities, indicating the blending of Gnostic and Roman religious traditions over time. But the most curious aspect of the Tralleis sacred complex is not just its religious affiliation. It is the architectural design and the unusual placement of its structures. The layout of the complex seems to follow no clear pattern, unlike the meticulous grid seen in other ancient cities. The buildings appear haphazardly arranged, and yet there is a sense of symmetry that is difficult to pin down. Could this design reflect something more profound? Something beyond mere functionality? Some scholars speculate that the unusual layout might have been intentional, designed to evoke specific spiritual or symbolic meanings. Were the structures arranged in a way that reflected the movement of celestial bodies as seen in other ancient sacred sites? Or did they serve a more ritualistic function, perhaps a place for initiations, ceremonies, or other sacred rites? As researchers have dug deeper into the site, they've uncovered additional elements. that defy simple explanation. For example, some of the foundations in the complex are built from massive stone blocks, many of which appear to have been carefully cut and shaped to fit together with remarkable precision. The craftsmanship is so intricate that it raises an important question. Did the builders of Tralleis possess knowledge of construction techniques far more advanced than previously thought? Some of the stonework at Tralleis bears similarities to other ancient sites that are known for their extraordinary creations, such as those at Gavrinis in southeastern Turkey or the megalithic sites of the Mediterranean. Could these ancient architects have been part of a broader trans-regional tradition, sharing knowledge and techniques across great distances? Or, as is often the case with ancient mysteries, could we be witnessing the remnants of a forgotten, lost civilization that possessed knowledge and skills now hidden from us? The site's religious significance also invites speculation. Some have suggested that the Tralleis sacred complex may have had a connection to the cult of Cybele, the Anatolian mother goddess who was worshipped throughout the ancient world. The city's prominence during the Hellenistic and Roman periods could suggest that Tralleis was an important center for the cult, attracting pilgrims from far and wide. In fact, some of the carvings found at the site resembled those found at other temples dedicated to Cybele, raising the possibility that rice played a role in the diffusion of religious practices across the ancient Mediterranean world. Yet, while the religious and symbolic elements of the site are intriguing, it is the purpose of the complex that remains shrouded in mystery. Was the complex built purely for religious rituals? Or did it serve a more multifaceted function? Could it have been a center for healing with its sanctuary, serving as a space for those seeking divine intervention? The possibility that the site might have served both practical and spiritual needs opens up fascinating lines of inquiry. But without further evidence, these ideas remain speculative at best. One of the most perplexing features of the Tralleis sacred complex is its seemingly deliberate abandonment. Historical records suggest that the city of Tyrol experienced a steady decline, eventually being abandoned during the early centuries of the Christian era. However, the sacred complex appears to have been left behind long before the city itself fell into ruin. This raises the question, why was the complex abandoned so abruptly? Could it have been the result of shifting religious beliefs, with the people of Tralleis turning away from their traditional gods in favor of new monotheistic ideologies? Or perhaps the abandonment was due to practical reasons, natural disasters, invasions, or changes in the local environment that rendered the sacred center obsolete. Some have suggested that the complex's abandonment may have been a result of a gradual shift in religious practices, where older polytheistic rites gave way to the rise of Christianity in the region. However, others propose that the temple's decline may have been more sudden, tied to specific events in the city's history that we are not fully aware of. The lack of clear historical records leaves us to speculate about the true cause of the site's abandonment, adding another layer of mystery to its already enigmatic past. Adding to the intrigue is the question of what may still lie buried beneath the sands of time. Archaeologists continue to dig in and around the site, but large portions of the complex remain unexplored. Could there be hidden chambers or artifacts still waiting to be uncovered? Perhaps the true purpose of the Tralleis sacred complex lies just beneath the surface, waiting for the right moment to reveal itself. The absence of clear evidence only deepens the sense of mystery surrounding the site, leaving us with more questions than answers. As we step back from the ruins of the Tralleis sacred complex, we are left to wonder about the lives of the people who built it, worshipped in it, and ultimately abandoned it. What did they believe? What knowledge did they possess? And why was it lost to history? The stones that remain at Tralleis continue to evoke a sense of wonder, beckoning us to explore the layers of history and mystery that still surround the site. The Tralleis sacred complex may never fully reveal its secrets, but it is clear that the answers are still hidden, perhaps waiting for a future generation of archaeologists to unlock the mysteries of this forgotten place. And as we consider the city's role in the broader tapestry of ancient Anatolia, we are left to ask, what truths about the past remain buried within the stones, waiting for us to uncover? Nestled within the rugged hills of Spain's northern coastline, the remnants of Castro culture fortifications stand like silent sentinels, watching over a land that has witnessed the rise and fall of countless civilizations. These ancient structures, scattered across the verdant landscapes of Galicia, Asturias, and northern Portugal, form a fascinating puzzle. A puzzle whose pieces seem to hint at a far deeper history than we can fully comprehend. The Castro culture refers to the Iron Age society that thrived in this part of the Iberian Peninsula between the 6th and 1st centuries BCE. Their settlements, known as castros, were often built on elevated hilltops, offering strategic advantages both for defense and visibility. Today, the Castro culture is perhaps best known for the remarkable fortifications they left behind. Fortresses of stone and earth with intricate walls, gates, and structures designed for both protection and the daily life of these long-forgotten communities. Yet, despite decades of study, the true purpose and methods behind these fortifications remain cloaked in mystery. As we stand before these ancient castros, it's hard not to be struck by the sheer scale and complexity of the fortifications. The Castro de Baronia, perched on a rocky outcrop overlooking the sea, offers a particularly striking example. Its towering walls, built from massive granite stones, form an irregular shape that follows the contours of the natural landscape. Some of these stones weigh several tons, each one carefully placed with such precision that it's difficult to fathom how the inhabitants of this remote region could have constructed such formidable barriers using the tools of their time. The walls of these fortifications are not just mere barriers. They are layered with multiple concentric walls that seem to encircle the Castro like a defensive maze. It's as though the builders were anticipating multiple stages of attack, each more dangerous than the last. The design is so intricate that it raises questions about the knowledge of engineering and construction possessed by the Castro culture. Were these walls simply a reflection of their desire for protection? Or did they serve a more symbolic or ceremonial purpose? The relationship between form and function in these fortifications suggests there may be deeper meanings embedded within their design, meanings that remain elusive. The defensive walls, with their vast sweeping curves, are not just functional. They are embedded in a natural landscape. The castros are often situated in areas of strategic significance with panoramic views of the surrounding terrain. Was this placement purely for defense, or was it part of a larger cosmological or spiritual belief system? In many ancient cultures, the layout of settlements was influenced not only by the physical world, but by celestial and spiritual considerations. Could the Castro culture have designed their fortifications with an understanding of the heavens, aligning them with the stars, the sun, or lunar events? The idea of sacred geometry and cosmic alignment is not unfamiliar in the world of ancient architecture, and it would not be surprising if something similar was happening here, even if it is not yet fully understood. One of the most perplexing features of these fortifications is the presence of multiple entry points, many of which seem designed to confuse or mislead potential invaders. Narrow passages, sharp turns, and hidden entrances, all within the seemingly impenetrable walls, suggest that the Castro culture was highly attuned to the need for secrecy and surprise in warfare. That these intricate designs also beg the question, what else could these pathways have been used for? Could they have had ceremonial or ritualistic significance, allowing people to pass through the walls for spiritual purposes or to mark certain times of the year? The idea of hidden spaces has long been associated with initiations and rites of passage in many ancient cultures, and it is possible that some of these castros were more than just fortifications. They were sacred spaces imbued with deeper meanings. The mystery surrounding the Castro culture extends beyond their fortifications. The castros themselves were often surrounded by large circular or oval structures, perhaps homes, storage areas, or communal spaces. These dwellings were built with dry stone walls constructed without mortar, and yet they have stood the test of time. The fact that such simple yet resilient techniques were used to create these permanent structures speaks to a level of ingenuity that we are only beginning to appreciate. How did the people of the Castro culture manage to build such enduring settlements without the advanced tools and machinery that we take for granted today? Archaeological evidence has uncovered items suggesting that the Castro culture ranged in a vibrant exchange with other cultures both nearby and further afield. Pottery, tools, and even jewelry found at these sites hinted connections with the Mediterranean, particularly with the Phoenicians and later the Romans. Yet despite these connections, the Castro culture maintained a strong sense of autonomy, and their fortifications are evidence of a people who understood the value of independence and protection. But the true origins of the Castro culture remain elusive. Who were these people and where did they come from? The lack of written records means that much of their history is lost to us. Were they indigenous to the Iberian Peninsula, or did they arrive from other regions? Did they inherit their architectural knowledge from previous civilizations, or did they develop their techniques independently? As of now, these questions remain unanswered, leaving us to wonder about the lost cultures that may have preceded them. One of the most curious aspects of the Castro culture fortifications are their eventual abandonment. Many castros were abandoned long before the Roman conquest of the region, suggesting that the decline of the Castro culture was not the result of foreign invasion, but rather a shift in cultural, political, or environmental circumstances. Was it the changing tides of warfare? Or were there other less tangible factors at play? Was the abandonment a result of changing beliefs, the rise of new powers, or perhaps a shift in the way people viewed their relationship with the land? The fact that these castros were abandoned so suddenly and without clear explanation adds an air of mystery to the story of the Castro culture. A people who built vast, complex fortifications to protect themselves only to eventually walk away from them. As we gaze upon the fortifications of the Castro culture, we are reminded of the fragility of civilizations. These ancient walls, built with skill and purpose, now stand as relics of a long-forgotten time. Yet the mystery they hold is far from over. What knowledge did these ancient builders possess? And what can their fortifications tell us about their society? Was the purpose of the Castro culture fortifications purely defensive? Or were they symbols of a deeper spiritual connection to the land and the cosmos? And what caused this enigmatic civilization to vanish, leaving only these ruins behind? The unanswered questions of the Castro culture fortifications invite us to reflect on the nature of ancient societies and their ability to shape the world around them. While their fortifications may have stood as defensive strongholds, they also stand as a testament to the mystery of a culture that remains hidden beneath the earth. As we continue to uncover fragments of their past, the true purpose of the Castro culture fortifications may one day be revealed. But for now, we are left with the tantalizing whispers of ancient stones waiting to speak their secrets to those who dare to listen. On a windswept hill in County Meath, Ireland, an ancient monument stands, its massive stone facade etched into the landscape as though it were a relic from a forgotten era. Newgrange, the world-renowned passage tomb. At first glance, it may appear like just another ancient burial site, but Newgrange is far more than that. It is a monument that defies time, a structure whose true meaning remains shrouded in mystery even after thousands of years of study. Newgrange was built around 3200 BC. It predates the Egyptian pyramids by at least 500 years, making it one of the oldest and most significant megalithic structures in the world. The passage tomb consists of a large circular mound nearly 80 meters in diameter, which is surrounded by a ring of massive stones. These stones, some weighing several tons, have been carefully arranged to create a pathway, a passage that leads into the heart of the mound. At the end of this passage lies a small chamber where ancient remains were once laid to rest. The precision with which Newgrange was built is astonishing, especially when considering the technological limitations of its time. The stones that form the structure of the passage are so precisely cut and fit together that no mortar is needed, and the passage itself is aligned with remarkable accuracy. This is no ordinary tomb. It is a celestial observatory, a place where light and shadow were used not only to mark the passage of time, but perhaps to connect the living with the divine. The most famous feature of Newgrange is its solar alignment, a phenomenon that has long intrigued archaeologists, historians, and astronomers alike. On the winter solstice, the sun rises in perfect alignment with the entrance of the passage. As the rays of the sun filter through the passageway, they illuminate the inner chamber for about 17 minutes, bathing it in a warm, golden light. This moment, which occurs once a year, has led many to speculate about the spiritual and astronomical significance of the tomb. Was it a temple designed to honor the sun, or was it a place where rituals were performed to mark the turning of the year? Could the alignment represent a connection to cycles of life and death, as well as the rebirth of the sun each winter? While the winter solstice alignment is well documented, the true purpose of the tomb is still uncertain. Was it merely a burial site, or did it serve a larger, more profound role in the culture of the people who built it? Some scholars believe that Newgrange was a center for ancestral worship, where the dead were honored and revered through rituals that connected the living to their ancestors. The chamber itself contains the remains of at least 5 individuals. Though it is unclear who these people were, or why they were chosen to be buried in such a sacred place. The precise nature of these remains, whether they were those of kings, priests, or other high-status individuals, remains a topic of debate. Another intriguing aspect of Newgrange is the intricate carvings that adorn many of the stones. These carvings, which include spirals, circles, and other geometric shapes, have long been a subject of fascination. Their meaning remains elusive, with no consensus on their purpose. Were they purely decorative, or did they serve a symbolic or ritualistic function? Some believe that the spirals represent the sun, while others suggest that they may have been part of a religious system that we have yet to fully understand. Could they have been a way for the builders to communicate with the gods? Or perhaps a form of cosmic mathematics that reflected a deeper understanding of the universe? The use of light as both a practical and symbolic element is central to the mystery of Newgrange. The light that enters the tomb on the winter solstice is not just an extraordinary architectural feat, it is a window into a worldview that was deeply attuned to the cycles of nature. The sun's journey through the passage may have been seen as a symbolic journey through life and death, with the darkness of the tomb representing the underworld or the afterlife. Could it have been a place of rebirth where the dead were believed to be guided into the afterlife by the rays of the sun? Or, as some have suggested, might it have been a place of ritual initiation where the living entered the tomb as part of a spiritual or mystical journey? Newgrange's mystery deepens when we consider the technology and knowledge required to build such a monument. The construction of the passage tomb would have required sophisticated planning and engineering, as well as a deep understanding of astronomy and geometry. How did the people of the Neolithic period possess such knowledge? It is widely believed that the builders of Newgrange were part of a larger complex society that had access to advanced tools and techniques. Yet, there is no written record of how the tomb was constructed, and much of its design remains a mystery. Was this knowledge passed down through generations, or did it come from external sources, perhaps from contact with other ancient civilizations? One of the most compelling mysteries surrounding Newgrange is the question of its builders. Who were the people who constructed this monumental tomb? And how did they come to possess the sophisticated knowledge and skills required to build it? The people of the Bio Valley, where Newgrange is located, have been part of the Neolithic farming culture that emerged in Ireland around 6,000 years ago. This culture is known to have engaged in complex social and religious practices, but little is known about their origins or how they developed their advanced architectural techniques. Some have suggested that the builders of Newgrange were part of a larger pan-European cultural phenomenon, perhaps linked to the ancient peoples who constructed the megalithic sites at Stonehenge or the pyramids of Egypt. Could the builders of Newgrange have had contact with other ancient civilizations, exchanging ideas and knowledge? Or was their knowledge of astronomy and architecture entirely independent, developed over centuries of observation and experimentation? Despite the questions that remain unanswered, what is clear is that Newgrange was a place of immense importance to its creators. It was not just a tomb, but a sacred space that connected the heavens and the earth. A place where the sun's light and the earth's stones intersected in a ritualized dance. It was a place of transformation where the cycles of life, death, and rebirth were enacted in stone and light. As we contemplate the mysteries of Newgrange, we are left to wonder what truths about the past remain hidden beneath the stones of this ancient tomb. What knowledge did the builders of Newgrange possess? And what deeper meaning did they ascribe to their monument? The answers may never be fully revealed, but the questions that Newgrange raises continue to spark our curiosity, urging us to look more closely at the intersections of light, time, and history. And as the solstice sun continues to rise over the ancient passage tomb, it reminds us that some mysteries are meant to endure, forever illuminating the shadows of our past. The fortress stands against the rugged landscape of the Anatolian plateau, where jagged mountains and sweeping valleys meet. Rising from the steep cliffs of Shovus in eastern Turkey, the ruins of the kingdom of Urartu tell a story of a civilization long vanished, yet whose presence still echoes through the stone walls that remain. Once one of the most powerful kingdoms of the ancient Near East, Urartu's fortresses were its formidable defense against both enemies and the relentless passage of time. But what truly lies within the remains of these mighty structures? What secrets might the stone walls of Urartu be hiding? Secrets that continue to elude modern understanding. Urartu, a kingdom that flourished from around the 9th to the 6th century BCE, controlled vast territories in what is now southeastern Turkey, Armenia, and northwestern Iran. The kingdom's strategic position between two powerful empires, the Assyrians to the south and the Medes to the east, demanded highly sophisticated fortifications. It is in these very fortresses that we find some of the most perplexing questions of ancient engineering and military strategy. Take, for example, the ancient site of Arabuni, located in modern Armenia. One of Urartu's most famous citadels was built around 782 BCE. Arabuni was constructed atop a steep hill strategically overlooking the surrounding valley and offering commanding views of the land below. Its imposing walls, reinforced by massive stone battlements, encircle a large complex of temples, royal residences, and storage buildings. From the outset, it is clear that this was no ordinary fortress. It was a statement of power and divine protection, a place where the rulers of Urartu could observe and dominate their surroundings. But the construction techniques used to build Arabuni and other Urartian fortresses remain enigmatic. The walls, of the citadel are constructed using massive basalt stones carefully cut to fit together with near-perfect precision. These stones, some weighing several tons, were sourced from local quarries and transported up steep hillsides. An impressive feat of engineering. Yet no written records provide a detailed explanation of how the Urartians managed such a monumental task. How did they move these massive stones over such rugged terrain? Did they use advanced techniques for transportation, such as rolling logs or sleds, or perhaps even forgotten methods that are now lost to history? One of the most striking features of the Urartian fortresses is their architectural layout. The fortifications often include intricate gateways, wide courtyards, and defensive towers, each designed with a specific purpose in mind. Yet, there are certain elements of the design that seem almost out of place for a military structure. For instance, the presence of large open spaces within the fortresses suggests that they were not only built for defense, but also for ceremonial or administrative purposes. Could these structures have served as centers of power where kings and priests presided over not just military matters, but the day-to-day governance of the kingdom? It is also worth considering the role of religion in the design of these fortresses. Urartian kings often portrayed themselves as the chosen representatives of the gods, and many of their fortresses were adorned with inscriptions and symbols dedicated to their deities. At Arabuni, for example, inscriptions carved into the stone tell of the king's divine right to rule and the blessings of the gods upon his reign. The blending of political and religious power in these fortifications raises an important question. Were the fortresses merely military strongholds, or were they also symbolic representations of the kingdom's divine authority? Could these structures have been constructed as much to demonstrate the divine protection of the gods as to defend against external threats? Further complicating the picture are the remarkable advances in engineering and water management found at Urartian sites. One of the most impressive features of these fortresses is their elaborate system of water channels and reservoirs, designed to provide a reliable water supply in the event of a siege. At Toprakali, another Urartian fortress, a complex network of aqueducts and underground tunnels can still be seen, which would have been critical for survival in a region where water was often scarce. Yet, these systems are far more advanced than what one might expect from a civilization of this era. How did the Urartians acquire the knowledge to design such sophisticated water management systems? Was this a product of trial and error? Or did they have access to a level of scientific understanding that we are only beginning to comprehend? The mystery deepens when we consider the kingdom's eventual fall. By the 6th century BCE, Urartu had been overrun by the Medes, and the once mighty fortresses fell into ruin. The reasons for the kingdom's collapse are still unclear. While it is often attributed to the rise of the Medes and the Assyrians, there are suggestions that internal factors such as social unrest or even environmental changes may have played a role. Was the fall of Urartu a natural consequence of the shifting power dynamics in the ancient Near East? Or were there other more complex forces at work? Could the fortresses themselves hold clues as to why the kingdom fell? Perhaps in their design or in the hidden chambers and inscriptions that have yet to be fully explored. One particularly tantalizing question centers around the significance of Urartu's fortresses as places of defense and refuge. Many of the sites show evidence of having been deliberately abandoned with no signs of large-scale destruction. What caused the inhabitants to leave these well-fortified strongholds? Was it the rise of a new enemy? Or did the people simply choose to move on, leaving their mighty fortifications behind? The possibility that some of these sites were abandoned rather than destroyed suggests a larger shift in the social or political order, but it also opens the door to further speculation. Were these fortresses symbolic as much as functional? Could They have represented a society's attempt to assert its power even in the face of collapse. The fortresses of Urartu remain, as they have for centuries, enigmatic and incomplete in our understanding. Their massive stone walls still stand, as a testament to a civilization that once ruled a vast territory, but whose secrets are only slowly coming to light. What knowledge did the builders of these fortresses possess? What ideas, beliefs, or practices did they encode into their design? And how did they envision their relationship with the divine and the natural world? As modern researchers continue to explore the ruins of the kingdom of Urartu, it seems that the fortresses may hold even more mysteries waiting to be uncovered. Will new discoveries shed light on the methods of construction, the cultural practices, or the reasons behind the kingdom's sudden disappearance? And will these stone walls, which have withstood the tests of time and conquest, finally reveal the full extent of the civilization that built them? Until those secrets are unearthed, the fortresses of Urartu remain, as they have for millennia, guardians of a forgotten kingdom, silent, steadfast, and still full of questions.